Quiet on set!
And action.
Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Jan Gruff and I'm joined by Kevin Talmans, and today we are reviewing two movies about reanimation into a different body. In Hopper's case, it's more of a transfer of a human into a robot beaver, and in The Bride, it is truly being reanimated from a dead body. More on Pixar's latest charming family movie and Maggie Gyllenhaal's reimagined Frankenstein tale coming up.
This episode, we are continuing the journey that is the filmography of Johnnie To, with not one, but two of his films, with the action extravagant drug war and the quirky and funny My Left Eye Sees Ghosts. Quite apt after Quite last week, honestly.
I agree. Then we caught up on a few recent releases that dropped on VOD and on streaming, like the sci-fi action movie War Machine starring Alan Richardson, Cold Storage, and Heel, which both became available on VOD, and then the not-so-recent Carlito's Way from 1993 by Brian De Palma, starring Al Pacino.
Usually there's a middle section in the podcast where Ewan does a lot of talking because he's a movie psycho, but not this week, since I have watched many movies this week too, even 5 in one day. Crazy! Anyway, I'm going to talk about Epic, Elvis Presley in concert, what a fun shortening, Fight Against Evil 2 and 3, and a movie called Unleashed that I watched because of a meme. Anyway, more on that coming up. If you want to skip to that, look at the time codes down below. But please stay here and comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you.
I love that you did your whole spiel of what you watched this week. I have a bunch of stuff as well, and you're just like, no, that's just in the glob of the Ewan's ranting section of whatever he watched. I watched The Moment, I watched Scream 7, I watched How to Make a Killing, I watched The Bluff, I watched Vladimir, Young Sherlock, Yellow Letters, and a bunch of older films. But again, skip ahead if you want to hear me talk about those and whatever Kevin was just talking about.
But please do stay here.
Please do stay, because we are kicking off the show with a spoiler review. I guess we'll keep it spoiler free for the beginnings for the latest Pixar film, jumping straight into the main reviews with Hoppers. Scientists have discovered how to hop human consciousness into lifelike robotic animals, allowing people to communicate with animals as animals. Animal lover Mabel seizes an opportunity to use the technology, uncovering mysteries within the animal world beyond anything she could have imagined. Kevin, that's the latest film from Pixar. I don't even know how many movies they've done, but it's the rare original non-sequel Pixar movie that we are getting. Although we get them almost every year, or at least every other year, but in recent times, I don't know if they've have left as much of an impact as the much anticipated, Pixar 5, Toy Story 5 that's coming up. But this latest film called Hoppers is by Daniel Chong. It's his second animated feature film. He also made the adaptation of We Bare Bears, a series, a web series, I believe, turned series and then turned a movie that does share a lot of similarities with these a black bear, a panda bear, and a polar bear who go on to adventures together. They like to stack, and it's also about the community of animals. So he seems like the perfect person to adapt this story. Now, we go into this obviously, expecting a family film, but with Pixar, also a sort of story that will pull you along. Maybe even get the room a bit dusty. You might even tear up for the one or other person. It might have that sort of experience. What was it like for you to watch Hoppers, Kevin? Did you have that magical Pixar feeling, or was it sort of just another animated film to you?
When walking out of the theater, I was to my friend this movie made me feel some of the Pixar highs that the older movies have. And I feel in a long time, but I didn't want to, put a date on it. So I went back to see, what has Pixar actually produced these past few years. Because, you got your Zootopia, but that's actually, Disney. And so I was Pixar. And it's okay, so we got Elio. I didn't watch Elio last year, but okay, sure. We got Inside Out 2, but I didn't love Inside Out 2, really. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Elemental, I didn't even really watch Elemental because it's like, you hear that they don't have that Pixar magic. Like, I automatically lose interest since they're already for children. And it's like, okay, let's see one more. Lightyear. I didn't watch Lightyear because apparently it was really, really bad. So it's like, oh God, what was the last Pixar movie I actually watched? And it was Turning Red, which, unironically, I also gave it 3 out of 5. So it's like, man, it's been since Luca and Soul. So like 5 years ago and 6 years ago, if you count Soul, that I've actually felt like I'm watching a Pixar film that I'm not being disappointed by. And that's like a huge compliment for the production company and Pixar themselves. Like the fact that here's another original movie that so far, from what I've heard, has presented really well at the box office. It's like a huge win for everyone so far. The audience, the creators behind it, everybody. So yeah, I was really ecstatic when walking out. How about you?
Well, I guess you told me about like the recent history of Pixar. I was more wondering, what did you think about this movie specifically?
Oh,
I guess, but
well, sure. I was just happy.
Giving me the recent history of, because I've seen all of the Pixar movies and I do agree they've lost a bit of their charm. It has sort of, I think it's interesting because I haven't seen Elio, but both of those sort of have a core theme about them that is about sort of connection, not really the vulnerability, but like some sort of communal aspect that is at the forefront of here. It's like nature conservation, but it's also sort of about taking in a place, shutting up, listening, and then things revealing themselves to you because you were able to take it in, other than just like going head first into things, like not overthinking it. I think it's like a nice setup for that character to start off as she's younger, doing like a brash thing of like breaking something up, where I was like, in that moment I was like, to children that does make sense, but maybe those animals that are in the cages, like the freeing itself is not really like, I was thinking like how many kids will do that now in classrooms, and it will actually be a bit of a hassle because it's not that easy that you can just like let something be free and it's actually the best for like that they'd even survive. But I think it's got its heart in the right place of like where what it wants to be about. I don't think it goes much more beyond than like the nice feelings, some niceties, something that like towards the end we feel like there's some common ground to be made, a sort of happy ending in a way. But I think the actual topics that it goes into of like her fighting for this nature to be preserved are like touched upon more than on a surface level. Not that an animated kids movie will do that, but it could also be like even more inspiring and like drive you to be really passionate about it. When I felt like it definitely lost itself a bit more in the like the typical like animation comedy, which is totally fine. But I just know that Pixar has done like the greats even way more of like when you think back to Ratatouille and like the sort of thing of like people quoting that to this day of like something feeling like the realization of tasting the food as a little kid, bringing you back to that, like the Wall-E's and sort of these other films. I think we haven't reached those heights again since then, but I think it's a pretty neat, fun movie. But yeah, it's not going. I assume it's not going to be, when we look at the end of the year, at the best animated films of the year. I'd be surprised if it's like in my top 5 anywhere. I think I'll see better animated films that are suited for younger audiences, but also adults. I think it does skew like sort of. It molds those things together where the jokes are pretty evenly like for kind of old and younger audiences, and I quite enjoyed that. But
the movie that you have mentioned, it's like they have one simplistic thing going for it and they do it great. And with Hoppers, I was actually a bit like concerned because from what I've heard about it and what I had seen in the trailers, etc., I was like, I thought we were getting a little bit more of a team-up movie. And the movie actually starts out very simplistic, so it's like, oh, wait, what are we doing? Because we see Mabel, who is trying to protest. By the way, this movie is sort of going for like an up intro, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because it's just like,
I was like, her shirt could have not been redder, She that grandma was a red shirt that whole time.
And it's so you have that beautiful moment on that walk when they are like, you were in the show notes, like shutting up and listening around to the environment. And can I just say, a bit of a funny year for Pixar doing, like go outside, listen to nature, and then the next movie is about iPad kids. It's like they're really trying to hone in on the message this year. Kids, go outside.
And I think it's something that like parents will resonate when they take their kids to it, and hopefully kids will see themselves reflected in like, oh yeah, no, there are different things. Like I don't know how much of it will just be go to this different toy that you have, more than it's like go outside and play, which I think they could definitely do that in Pixar. And a lot of like I think you are so close to the line of all of these moments feeling very constructed and feeling like they're pulling you along too much, that they don't, you sort of have to feel like they're occurring sort of naturally in the plot. And I think it is very easily, with a score and with certain presentation, very cheesy. And I think it mostly, sort of works. Not that I was like super invested in the story the whole time. Like one of the things I found a bit odd was those machines that just make loud noises to keep him away. Like a lot of it was incredibly literal in how they go about things. The sort of solutions trees, was very like, you need a beaver and then bring the beaver back and everything comes back, and it has those sort of animation movie logic, in the whole film. But yeah, it's pretty good.
And so from that point on, it's like, so the moment where the movie really started clicking for me was when the council was gathered. And from that point on, I was like all in this movie because I was, like you said, like it felt very constructed. It's like very literal. And from that point on, it felt like you had gone to the lecture and now you can get to the fun. You know what I mean? With that beginning. From that point on, it's so much fun. I love George's background because there is like a community gathering of the animals in the woods because they've been driven there because there's no more place for them to stay. So they have like a little jungle in the woods, shall we say, that's just outside of the city. And there's a king there, the king of the mammals, George. And when he starts explaining his backstory of how he got king, and it's literally the story of Hamlet, I was like, nice one.
It's pretty. Also, like this is slightly in spoiler territory. Like I could have expected that character to have like a twist of something nefarious going on with him, and they really didn't go that route. Like in a different movie, that could have been the case where he's like this king and he does something to grab onto the power, but it's more going about like how you build trust, and if your intentions are in the right place, you can still hurt someone. And I think that's something that is such an important lesson. We can have a king that's good. We can have a leader that's good. Not everybody needs to be an authoritarian or dictator. Honestly, when I saw George, I was like, that's an evil guy. That's an evil guy. And I just don't trust anyone. Also, someone who's like has a crown on and calls himself king. But yeah, I guess he was a pretty good guy. What did you think about the decision of, as soon as they are in the animal bodies, in the robot version even, that is talking, or like everyone else as well, not just the robots, like their eyes change, and sort of to show that difference, because that's a huge jump, right? With the eyes, how small and how big they get.
I was creeped the fuck out at the beginning by those eyes, because it immediately reminds you of Coraline, and Coraline traumatized everybody with those damn eyes.
True,
it's just a fact.
Think about that, true.
So, like, that was also a bit of the unsettling, simplistic part. I was like, what are we actually doing here? And the moment that they are going in the animal mindset, which is very much like the Wild Robot. I feel like the comparison to Wild Robot is a bit inevitable. And after experiencing such a great movie, and then this movie is solid as well. Like, I rated it quite highly, but you can't deny, but to compare it to like that movie did a little bit better
on a very surface level, ignoring the story and the plot and everything, just on a looks comparison. I think I would also give it to the Wild Robot. I think that one is like
I would too.
Very stunning, a bit more cinematic.
But that said, That said, I did feel like this movie also steered a bit clear from the typical Disney animation we're getting these days, and going a bit more back to another like animation style, such as the Ratatouilles of the past. Like
Think so?
Yeah, I think it did a bit. Like even the human characters, they don't have those typical huge Disney eyes compared to like some of the movies of recent years. So that I did feel like, oh, I'm not watching the usual like Pixar Disney. Like I did feel like they steered a bit clear from that. Not fully, but a bit more like on a different path. Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about John Hamm as Mayor Jerry?
Oh, but Major Jerry. To be fair,
like
this is the first time that I've ever heard that John Hamm voiced it, because I am terrible at recognizing voices. I am just terrible at it.
His voice. I think he like I've also seen like behind the scenes recording of him doing it.
Oh,
and
okay.
I honestly I'm not like I think it's such a disconnect of what I hear. Like it's pretty impressive, the sort of tone that he has that sort of fits that like character's personality incredibly well, that feels somewhat universal, of like this mayor guy who's just a mold of whatever, I don't know. It also, obviously doesn't go much deeper into he's popular because he does stuff that people want. There's not a lot of critiques there. Like it's also keeping it very literal of like, the highway that is comically like horrible, that just doesn't make sense in the logic of the town as well.
Yeah.
Like and people still cheer it on because it feels like some sort of progress, and people are also not just in it for themselves. Like when like the rules are still in place, right? Because if animals are still there, they're not allowed to build. So that's why they do an extra step. It's not like it's evil with a protocol, or like it's like intentionally misleading people, but not outwardly like no rules are in place. And it's still adhering to sort of those sort of structures. And then the character that is the true villain is one that's willing to throw everything away. And it is kind of interesting that it comes from a place of feeling like, you are the suppressed people for the long time, the little people who never have a say in any of these things. And once you can hold on to power, you'll just lash out as much as you can, right? What did you think about like the comedic bits with sort of that character and his evil turn? Like I think it was pretty entertaining.
Before we can we talk about the highway though? Because it's essentially like a ring around the city.
It loops back in.
And usually, so in a town near me, I won't actually say the place, but in a town near me, like there's actually been like a ring around the city, and the reason is because then the cars can go around the city, and if you want to get in the city, there's like a few actual entry points. But the goal essentially is to get the city like car free, so we can have more bicycles and like people walking into the city using public transport. And like that's the goal of that thing. So maybe it would have been interesting for the movie to also have been like, oh, we're not only doing it for the people, we're also doing it for the environment in terms of like the bicycles, but there's also like another damage to the environment. So maybe that's something a bit more simplistic like that would have been nice to have into the movie to sort of counterbalance that. Yeah. And that wasn't really the case. Now, to get into the actual big villain, like, are we saying who the villain is or not?
Sure, we can do full-on spoiler. I think my other thing was a bit more, like, lighter on actual spoilers, because George, look at that cute guy. How could he be the bad guy?
Well, he's so shubbly cute, and whenever they do go to, like, the human point of view of George, where he's just like, moop moop, like, whatever he said.
They're just as cute. I'm like, if this movie might flop at the box office, maybe it does well. I don't know. But the plushies of this, I would even get some. They're so damn cute, man. So yeah, I hope actually, that's them at least as well.
I need to look what the plushies look like. You can talk.
The sort of nasally, like whiny voice that someone could have as like the sort of worm villain that's about to turn into a butterfly larva. I think Dave Franco is perfect for that. It's just like the way that he sounds, just like how he can project his voice up that way, and it's so great, and really like him in this role. I think this is like sometimes the case where, at least in US productions, a lot of the voice cast, there's some people who are known to do stuff like with just animated films, and then in international movies they're like more separate actors that just do the dubbing, but they're also very proficient at that work. And I used to say a couple of years ago that I think there's not that much of a difference when dubbing is done for animated films, because it needs to be dubbed regardless. So it just depends on how well you do it. But then it's not animated with the mouth, so like I think I've moved away from that. But I think we got some like really talented people here who can sort of do both. Like, did you like notice that the insect queen's mother was Meryl Streep?
I was so surprised when I saw Meryl Streep, because again, you don't really look at the voice cast, and when the cast does appear, it's like, Meryl Streep, what?
and maybe I'm also not the greatest at placing voices, but I think with the people who aren't just like Aquafina, who I can hear in every single, they do sort of disappear, and I see the character and no one else, and I'm so surprised at who it was.
And those are perhaps the greatest roles, Yeah,
exactly. And then with the two lead characters, I'd say, or like the three lead characters, you got John Hamm in there as well. But with George, played by Bobby Monahan, who's someone who's done like a lot of animated films, right? He's done Inside Out as the Forgetter Bobby, and I don't even know what that character is at the top of my head, to be honest. Monsters University, it was in If, Secret Life of Pets, and some live action roles as well, but mainly he's been doing animated stuff. Again, no one I would recognize from the voice itself. I think it just sort of fits that character. And then with Piper Kurda, you got a pretty like newcomer who hasn't done that much that I've seen, apart from, I guess, in May December she had a role. I don't know if she was one of the daughters or if it was even a smaller part, but I think it's pretty serviceable for the story itself. So when it comes to like all of the, like, I got nothing on the technical level and performance level. I got really nothing to like, call out.
Can we talk about the core team of the rebellion animal that joined Mabel?
Sure, yeah.
Who invited the green lizard or like the gecko? What did Blood actually contribute to that team?
He makes funny faces, and it did get me a couple of times where I was just like, okay, come on, dude. It's like it happens so often that it's the way that he does like this, it's just like over animated. It's like that physique, that like skeleton of animation just works perfectly. For animation.
I just love that he contributed nothing to the actual like teamwork or like the escapes. Like he barely did nothing.
I don't think there's like a over the top comic relief character that is in more Disney movies. I think in Pixar it's not always there. It's often there, but in Disney it's definitely like more present. Yeah. And here it just has a bit of more of an ensemble of people. And what do you think about like the earnestness of the film? Like, do you think it's like, because you often break like earnestness with lighthearted jokes and sort of cut the tension, keep it easy, the quippy nature of it all. And I think this movie didn't feature like too much of that. It sort of had a nice balance, which is kind of refreshing, right?
Totally agree with you there. I didn't feel that at all. I felt that definitely quite a lot with Turning Red, I feel. Hence, I rate that movie a bit lower than the other Pixar movies. But I think that worked perfectly. Also in terms of the actual messages, I like the fact that there are multiple like cases of environmental danger. You're not only talking about expansion by construction of endangerment to the animals, but you also got, spoiler alert, I guess, you got a wildfire, which is definitely the part that reminds you the most of We Bare Bears, the movie, because that essentially is sort of the same ending. Hey, there's a wildfire. But the roles are, I guess, sort of reversed, because the bears need saving in We Bare Bears by Officer Murphy, and then in Hoppers, it's the animals that have to like sort of sacrifice their water for the humans to sort of get on the right note with each other. I like the fact that there were like multiple, hey, these are the causes, these are the effects that it could have. It's not again like a very black and white type of movie, which I also very much appreciated of Hoppers. I don't really have many bad things to say about Hoppers, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, me neither. I think it's like in a lot of ways where I might be like, where it's overindulgent in certain moments, or like you start to slightly cringe at some attempts of the humor. I think that sort of evens out if I feel like overall a movie has like a core good message at its heart, and I feel like its impact is larger than maybe the slight disagreements I have about like little nitpicks that some decisions of comedy, of returning quips that aren't that funny, that like stuff that is a tad bit like really over the top just to sell the animation. Like I don't know. I think the flying shark is funny and how over the top it is, and how like they're all working together. But it is also a bit much of like how it needs to be tense of them going after Cherry and like killing him, and like that car chase. Like that is very much just, we need an action set piece for the animation, and sometimes you're like forcing it a bit in the plot where it's like not as natural. But I think we can address that and still enjoy the movie just the same. And I also appreciate a movie that is about like, seeing animals not just as like even with insects, when you squish them, that maybe you don't squish them. You don't always need to kill every insect. Not that it's like some overarching thing.
I did not expect to squish. I was not expecting to squish.
Oh my god, the moment when she's like squishing the like Meryl Streep's character, like the insect queen, I was like, oh shit.
Oh no.
Shit is about to go down. I was like, wait, this is an animated movie where a robotic beaver just smashed a butterfly. Why am I so invested? And I'm like, oh shit. Oh yeah.
And then you're like, oh wait, they're gonna squish Jerry, and you're like, how are they gonna do it? Comically with a big, large shark that is being.
Yeah, and also they he's now listed as Insect King, but I think his character is called Brutus as well, which is like not an additional thing. So, like it's got a bunch of like the Hamlet stuff. There's a lot of that like the mythologies. And
I saw references to Dune. They even name dropped Avatar.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's so funny. It's just. I think it's a return to form for Pixar. I honestly think it is.
It just doesn't make like any sense to me that in this small little town, which I guess is also
small.
In the school. Is it a bigger town? I don't know. I just didn't like. I don't know if it doesn't call out a specific town, right? It's a fictional town.
That town has a couple of skyscrapers. I don't know if it's,
okay.
I would
fair, but they have like the research that they're doing that I just didn't. Like really add up to me that they would, I guess, be doing that there. But it's just like a nitpick. That
I mean, it's a university. It makes sense to me.
I guess. It's like, didn't you write? Wasn't this where you wrote like it's crazy that they offer her a job or something?
Oh, but no! It's crazy. At the end, she just walks up to them. It's like, hey, do you need any help? I'm kind of looking for work, and they're just being like, yeah, sure. It's like, nah. You need to go to 4 rounds of applications. You need to compete with multiple other people that need to get that job. It's nah, you don't get it that easily. I'm like, it's so funny to look over to a friend. It's like, it's the least relatable thing of the entire movie.
Well, what does this movie teach you? If there's a wildfire, just break a huge dam. And you'll be fine. And you'll get a job easy. Nature is actually fine if we care for it. It's like, lies, man, we're fucked, but it's nice to distract yourself from the realities,
which is ironic because I don't know, I thought like an article that was like, if this dam breaks, it's like full of like chemicals that would like poison the environment. It's like, maybe not break a dam.
What, because they poop in it, or what
no like there's just like chemicals and like it's not actually like very clean water, so if that dam breaks, it's like the
because it's like been there for a while, and
I haven't gone into the details of it. I don't
you
remember
mean like an actual dam, not a dam.
Like an actual dam with water behind it, and
I thought you were talking about like one that's built by beavers. I was like, what the fuck do the beavers do with that water? Make it stink. Stanky water.
It's very smart to make the ants king of the insects. I mean, those are some workers. Like, that's free labor right there for them.
Exactly. I also love, I think they don't get like individual like faces or like very just like Universal,
Yeah,
they
this
all
is
kind of look the same. Did
well,
yeah,
same
workers.
same like with the spider.
Yeah,
Which the spider was also a genius little comic bit. I thought like this is an arrow, Jerry, or something, or like Phil. I don't know what the name of the other spider was.
No, funny movie overall. I hope it does well. It's I hope this this is a yellow poster, right? And we got another movie later this year for kids. Minions 3, I believe.
No, I'm not. I won't be seated.
I honestly, I probably won't either. If I'm being honest, I don't know if I'm going out to
you are. Why are you lying to yourself? You are.
The thing is, I guess at least you wouldn't need to, go to a screening that does it in English, like to the press screening, because they're just going banana and do some stupid shit. So, oh my god, now I'm in a bad mood because I'm thinking about Minions and I did it all myself. But Hoppers is pretty solid. I gave that a 7 out of 10. Definitely worth checking out. And I think Pixar has slightly devalued the overall brand identity with the sort of day and date releases on Disney Plus during the COVID years, which is truly a shame. And I just hope, because like family movies have done well since then. I think last year definitely was a down year for animation too, when it comes to like
we
box
talked about
closes.
that.
Yeah, maybe we are back into an upswing with a solid start off point for that. And then in less than a month's time, in 3 weeks, we are getting the sequel to Super Mario Brothers, that movie.
I mean, we talked about it as well. It is a busy month. Like last month we had Goat, which that flopped, but it's like an animated movie. Then this month we have Harper's, and then we already have Super Mario Galaxy. I mean, it's a busy year for animation, or at least in like the first half, and Toy Story shortly after that as well. So crazy. I gave Hoppers a 7.5 out of 10. Like I gave it 4 stars. Like I rounded up because I truly think I don't have many bad things to say about it. Maybe I would have liked some more involvement of the other Hoppers, which is like the bird and the rabbit.
Otter Hoppers.
Let's move on. Next movie, please. Let's talk about The Bride.
A lonely Frankenstein travels to 1930 Chicago to ask groundbreaking scientist Dr. Ophronius to create a companion for him. The two revive a murdered young woman, and the bride is born. And what ensues is beyond what either of them imagined. That's Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, which has been much discussed even ahead of its release. It initially was set to come out at the back end of 2025, and then was pushed for reasons of maybe potentially hurting Jessie Buckley's Oscar campaign for that Best Actress award. Now, we don't know by the time of this recording yet, because the Oscars haven't happened, if she'll actually get it. It's highly likely that she will. Maybe we could also discuss the universe later on, if this movie had come out last year, if it actually would have hurt her chances. But The Bride, you've sort of been talking about that as like with the trailers, that it gave off that Joker vibe. We got a lot of like, overlapping talent with the cinematographer, with the composer, and Warner Brothers as a whole behind it. That a lot of the story beats remind you of that film as well. Then maybe it lacks its sort of own identity. With the movie I got a lot of thoughts on this. I think you. I
know, but I wanna start it off with a question. Yeah. You forgot something. It's not called The Bride. It's called The Bride! Exclamation point. And my question to you, Ewan, was Lawrence Hart right all along? That if
I was thinking
a movie
that as well.
has an exclamation point, you better steer clear from it. Was he right with this movie?
I legit was thinking about Lawrence Hart, like from Blue Moon, while I was watching this movie as well. I was like, yeah, it's definitely, this whole movie feels like it has to make an exclamation point around a lot of its points again and again. I think he was right to give you a short answer. Yeah, definitely.
So your answer is yes to that question. My answer would also unfortunately be yes by that question. I think The Bride, I was bored most of the time, which, for a concept of this movie, being bored is the last thing you think you'd be, but unfortunately I was, and it was only until like half an hour, like 35 minutes into the actual movie, that I got a bit hooked to the story, which for half an hour is a bit insane, especially in, these modern times where people have an attention span of 2 minutes. And yeah, I was just surprised. Even the resurrection of the bride, which, is always the like peak point of these movies. It's very stylized. This one didn't feel stylized or like even, adrenaline fueling at all. And even the character of Frankenstein himself, that's been seemingly around for 100 years, is surprisingly stupid, even though when he meets Dr. what's her name? Euphonius, they're like actually talking about, like high research topics and like, oh yeah, I've read your research on, but so he's a smart person, but I guess, socially he's not the most developed, which also
he's
feels
like
a bit weird after 100
shake
years.
Hands, he says like, no, I think that part isn't weird because it's sort of set up in this world that he
but
hasn't
it's also
touched
like
anyone.
you live 100 years, and whenever he's like conversing with Jessie Buckley, it is a bit weird, especially in their interaction, because she's intelligent as well, so you think they would connect a bit better to each other, but they often don't, which is, you can say the opposite thing on an acting level. I think Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale saved this movie a lot. Yeah, they saved this movie.
If you go by your rating, they don't completely save it. They try to, they like a sinking ship, and they're just like very good at chucking the
at calming the
out.
people on the boat. Yeah.
They keep on playing the fiddle.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the cast, you got Jessie Buckley, Christian Bale, Jake Gyllenhaal, Annette Bening, Peter Sarsgaard, Penelope Cruz, John Magaro, Louis Cancel Me again in a role that is like could get him canceled in the role that he plays. It's perfect casting. And you just look at that cast and you're like, oh, there's some side plots to this movie where it really is unfocused in its identity. Like, is it more of a like more feminist driven emancipation mystery, like fantasy tale, or is it more grounded in like some sort of noir aesthetic with a mob? I think the whole mob plot that like runs through the whole movie really muddies the core message of the film, because it's so like taken to something clearly wrong instead of criticizing a larger structure that is like very patriotic and, a reason to rebel against. It gives you something that is like, yeah, I know there's some literal criminal shit, murder happening. Obviously that's wrong and no one's saying anything. And it's not just because they're women. It's just wrong. And I think it just like gets really muddled from the first minute on, when this whole narrational story device of how it's presented is through Mary Shelley, who's sort of connecting through her to her creature, to Frankenstein, of like reawakening this, and it cuts back and forth of her around the table, which even in that scene, I think for a solid minute or two, I didn't know that she was like a lady of the night and she was like trying to infiltrate. I thought she was just like someone's girlfriend there. And then her acting out was like, I don't know, maybe I just like wasn't paying enough attention, but to me that wasn't immediately clear. So like it became pretty apparent, I guess, later on, but it just was off in that presentation because it makes Jessie Buckley go from like an American accent to one of like this old English thing, and it's just very messy for no apparent reason. And I did watch the 1931 and 1935 Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein movie, plus a bunch of the later ones as well, because it is sort of a take of that retelling of that story that, starts off with Mary Shelley and I believe a brother or someone like that, like talking about like having written this book and these creatures, and then going back to, I guess, the Frankenstein Universal monster movies from the 30s. And in that movie, the bride is in the last like 5 minutes. Like, I guess spoilers for that movie, which is almost 100 years old now. They bring her back to life. She doesn't like him. He's like, oh, she doesn't like me. Let's blow everything up. he blows them all up. He kills the bride. He kills another scientist, and he kills himself. But joke's on you, he's back for the next one. He actually didn't die. But it sort of ends the story in a way where like Elizabeth and Dr. Frankenstein make it out, but the rest is like killed. And this movie very early on, obviously, like goes with, oh no, she's actually along for the ride, but she's sort of seeking, I don't know what she's looking for, because she's clearly being lied to by him, and we are very much narrowly walking that line where it's conveniently she doesn't uncover things. And then it just sort of drags in this Bonnie and Clyde type of like, let's go, like we commit a crime, we are on the run. Of course, there's a mob. There's always a mob in a Frankenstein movie, especially in these 30 ones, man. Literally, at least one mob a movie. It's crazy. It's actually like, to form a mob like that is quite impressive.
Yeah.
But sorry, I've been talking for a while, but there's just a lot to talk about. It's just a lot of things that are happening that I think aren't working well within each other. I like how she tries to be very daring with this movie, but I think it's just kind of overall like it's like, you know, you got an inflatable thing, right? And it has all of these different things that it can flap open to, and then it's like, oh, it's a crazy thing that's like, oh, so big. But because you are like pushing air into this section and into this section and into this section, at the end the whole thing doesn't have air in it. It just stays flat, you know.
And it's quite interesting because you have the source material in your mind. You are very close to the book. You are very close to the original movies. I am not.
This is sort of not something that happens in the book. All the bride stuff.
Oh, I know, right? But like you are close to like the source material is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay.
And I am more the guy that looked at the first trailer and was like, why is this giving me major Joker vibes? And I want to dive in a bit more into that from my point of view. So we've said it has the same cinematographer in Lawrence Sher. It has the same composer in Hildur Gudnadottir. And we have an overlap in the producer in Emma Tillinger Koskov. Also, again, from Joker 2 and Joker 2 Folie à Deux. And even the first Joker, and in comparison to The Bride. The Bride also clearly wants to sort of reinvent and reimagine the original like event of Frankenstein. And Joker Folie à Deux tries to do that as well with Joker. Todd Phillips basically saying like, hey, F you to the people that are like inspired by the first Joker movie. So they both have that same original goal in mind. And then, like, I guess a bit of a spoiler territory from here on, because I'm comparing like literal story beats and scenes. You have the moment that Frankenstein kills the people that are harassing the bride, like Jesse Buckley and him. Felt like the same moment to me when the Joker is being harassed by those three guys in the subway. Very familiar moments, and the moment that Frankenstein kills in The Bride was actually the moment that was a bit hooked, because then the sort of Bonnie and Clyde dynamic starts to happen. We have both fanatics that are being inspired in The Bride and in the Joker, and it's quite funny because in the Joker it's very clearly these like meta dudes that are like, yeah, we are men, and in The Bride it's like, yeah, we are females, female empowerment. So it's like a bit of a reflection of each other. We have two detectives that are on the case in The Bride. It is Sarsgaard and Penelope Cruz. And in Joker, it's like Shea Wiggum and Bill Camp. And they have like the same dynamic and involvement in the story, even though The Bride tries to very much be like, hey, Penelope Cruz is this female detective, but she's actually saying she's an assistant. But they, in terms of like impact in the movie, it feels exactly the same, even though Shea Wiggum and Bill Camp in Joker have like even less involvement with it. We have also a character, the main protagonist reveres in The Bride, that is Jake Gyllenhaal character, where Frankenstein is very inspired by him as they watch him a lot on the screen, and when they first meet him in the like lobby room or like a premiere, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And in Joker, it's obviously De Niro, and like both our main protagonists meet their heroes, and it actually doesn't end up as they would have liked. They're being sort of laughed at. And then we obviously have the musical and the dance numbers that come up like sort of out of nowhere. and we have that in The Bride and Joker Folie à Deux. So I think there is enough overlap in these story beats to say yes, they are quite familiar, they are quite similar, and now there's this sort of discourse that people are clowning on Joker and defending Bride by saying, oh, but Maggie Gyllenhaal took a risk as a justification for it being a mess for me. And I was also wondering at the same time, because I haven't heard anything from Todd Phillips with after Joker Folie à Deux, and again, Joker Folie à Deux was a bold move. You got like $200 million from Warner Brothers, and you basically retcon your entire first movie. And it was a move that I really admired. But with Maggie Gyllenhaal, it's like you made The Lost Daughter, which is a movie that came out in 2020, I believe, or like 2021. I liked your small story thing, and I really like her as a writer as well. I know she was in The Kindergarten Teacher, which was a movie I really liked, and it's just like I felt like she needed a movie in between The Lost Daughter and The Bride to pull off The Bride. I felt like she was thrown into this big movie filmmaking a bit too early, and I think that is ultimately what cost The Bride its like efficiency.
I think it's something about, like, if you remember The Lost Daughter, which is like about a really complicated like female lead character too, that is holding very, very, like, a lot of contradictions within itself. And here it's just on a larger scale, like sort of communicated or try to communicate through these three different characters of the Bride, of Ida, and of Mary Shelley, that sort of conglomerate into the same thing, but it's the different spectrums of this woman that feel like could be reflected in maybe one person to make it less messy, because you don't 100% know, like, sort of what's influencing what, like what part of Mary Shelley is like talking to Ida already, is in the anticipation that she'll be reanimated, is that sort of connection to that character that she's talking to, or is it more about like Mary Shelley as this representation of like, you know, someone who is really sort of a grandmother to the genre of writing as well, and the often retconning of like not giving women actually that place that they deserve in science, but also in science fiction. And I think, like, I can see all of the intention behind casting that whole spectrum on the big screen. It just, yeah, I'd say I call it audacious, but it doesn't know what to cohesively do with all of its ideas. And it's really disappointing, because I think there's an interesting thing in here, and I told you that I think that sort of the big voice that comes in that, like, you know, gives you the narrative framework, and then scenes play out, and they play out in a way that I think you could do this more successfully if it was on stage. I think this reads more like a stage play to me. Like, really, I'm replaying the movie, and I did that a couple of times, and it just kind of makes sense to me that a lot of these things that, like, maybe it's also me shitting on theater a bit, where it feels like things have to be less thought out on a plot level, and they can't just be thematically like, you know, focused, or a bit more focused, or even not focused and come off as focused, because you fill in way more of the in-between. Because I think with theater, like, there's way more of that sort of, you need to buy in way more. And I just, from the first moment when Mary Shelley's on screen, and in a really cringy way of addressing it, like in a very didactic way of telling at you what you're supposed to be feeling, like literally making characters say "me too" a bunch of times in a way that's like obviously activating that phrase in the audience, but doesn't like no context that is relevant to the story itself. It's shouting a bunch of words, not really knowing what to ultimately say. It really is a lot of noise. I was frustrated. I really wanted this to be better, but
I thought you were about to shit on theater. I was like, no, don't go the Timothée Chalamet way of insulting ballet and opera.
Don't
and
get me started on those stupid like Oscar drama stuff. I couldn't care
But-
less. Also, could care less. You know, this is the thing that you say both
But I
things.
told you the solution to that Mary Shelley black and white type of narration would have been to cast someone else. In my mind,
yeah.
in my mind, it would have been Catherine Hunter. I was imagining Catherine Hunter in that role. In sort of the same way that she's in Tragedy of Macbeth. I absolutely love her in that role. I was imagining
Doesn't work
her.
because Mary Shelley didn't get very old, so it's like it doesn't. It needs
I
to be
know,
a
man.
younger-
But
Yeah, so
I was just imagining someone else as the narrator to
But did you
make
say-
it a bit.
You didn't say you said Catherine Hunter, right? Not Catherine Hahn.
No,
'Cause I
Catherine
could
Hunter.
see- Yeah, Catherine Hunter. No, way too old. But Catherine Hahn would for me maybe just stay on the cafe train
Maybe
for Catherine.
fair.
Tie
fair,
to Frankenstein too. Did you wait? I saw this randomly today. Did you know that Heath Ledger was named after Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights, and his sister as well, Catherine, after Catherine in that
Oh,
novel. Didn't know
we are
that.
still talking about Wuthering Heights in March. I'm kidding.
Leave me
I felt
alone,
like that
man.
was it. That was a bit too savage. I'm sorry.
But did you see the list that Maggie shared to Letterboxd
I did
about
not.
like the films that inspired?
quickly. Also to hammer a bit, the point home, which is exactly what this movie does. There's a certain line that they say to the movie. I'd prefer not to. Which, hey, is quite a powerful line if you think about it.
Yeah.
But the problem is they say it a dozen times throughout this movie. Like, they say it way too many times. So it's like, okay, we get it now. We are not this dumb.
Kevin,
And yeah.
I could do this all day.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
But,
it's
yeah,
that sort of
and-
writing, right?
And it's so weird because Maggie Gyllenhaal also talked about this being her first experience with test screenings. And it's like, bro, what was this movie like before the test screenings and everything? Like, it's truly a fascinating movie in terms of how they still got released, because it's also Warner Brothers. And if they were not this confident in this movie, this is still Zaslav's Warner Brothers. Would this movie have been justified to have been shelved? I don't know,
do you
man.
see the 80 or 85 million that it cost in production budget on screen? Because I think I see that. I think it lavish
yeah.
sets, set design. We did talk about this, not yet, I guess, in our review here, that you thought the cinematography, even though it was stunning in Joker, wasn't great in this.
No,
to you?
the
I
camera
thought it
work was
fine.
abysmal.
I think
No,
the editing was to
there are
me
like a couple
the
of
part
scenes
that I-
whenever they go close-ups and there's like some intense shaking. It's like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
It's the same, and it's the same cinematographer, and it's like, why are we doing this close, intense shake-up? And they do it multiple times through the movie, and especially in close-up or like medium close-up. And I just hated it. I found it so disorienting and distracting. And don't come at me with saying that's the point, because I don't think it is at all. Yeah.
It's also the mob boss that is played by the one guy who.
Oh yeah,
James
yeah.
Cameron. Forget his name, but I think
it was
that
also
scene as
in
well. When,
Superman, right?
I think when that scene is supposed to show that like he's ruthless, the tension isn't really there. It's a lot about not shooting individual scenes well, where you can sort of see, you can feel the sort of mold that it's trying to take scenes from, but it sort of lacks a bit of its own identity, even just in the presentation of the bride itself, with that very over the top black lipstick or paint thing over her.
Yeah.
It feels a bit too broad. It's just a tiny bit too much, and it feels like that also represents how much of this movie feels. It sort of overdoes all of its scenes quite a bit.
By the way, the guy is called Zlatko Buric.
Yeah.
The one that plays Lupino and the bad guy, who is also the bad guy in Superman, also the bad guy in Wolves, and probably like is most famous, I would say, for Triangle of Sadness.
What do you think about Jake's character and like his obsession with the cinema?
No. And again, it's this sort of like, hey, celebrating old school cinema, and it's like, it's not doing anything for me. I get it's her brother, but it did nothing for me. And
Yeah.
with De Niro, you at least have that confrontation in Joker. Here it's like, oh yeah, hey, yeah, thank you. What a weird guy. That's it.
There isn't really much that comes from it, yeah. Apart from, I guess, that dancing scene. It's just a lot of it. I think I laughed out loud when they started dancing. I was like, what the fuck is that? And then I also think Peter Sarsgaard is one of the people who, like, that character does not work at all when it comes to The Bride. I think the stuff with him and Penelope Cruz is okay-ish, of him sort of being this ally that's stuck in the structures, that he feels like he's complacent in not making a move, and that move has cost someone else's life with Ida, that he wasn't doing more than he could have. Like, he was just like staying in line, and he does the same of like his repeated line. I think was quite a bit better than the like
I prefer not to.
I prefer not to. Of what does he say? Like, there's nothing he can do about that, or something like that. It's like not something that is like itched into my mind because he says it so much, but the sentiment is sort of felt, and I kind of like that. Like, by the end of it, of him, major spoilers. By the end of him, like, leaving all of this and handing it over to Penelope, like, that sort of has come full circle. But I also didn't really like how it went about that character as well, with the like lady cop. I think it was like too broad of like, oh, look at all these dumb men who want to ostracize a woman. And it's like, obviously, like, that's sort of really was happening, is still happening in certain fields where there is that sexism around. But it just felt like it always needs to oversell you on someone's brilliance to justify that they deserve to be there, which makes sense because like everyone who wasn't trying as hard probably would have given up like way earlier. But it still feels like something feels really off about it. Underused characters here. Annette Bening. For a second, I didn't recognize that it was Annette Bening. It took me like a minute. I don't know. I just like, she was like, I saw that character. I was like, oh yeah, no, that is Annette Bening. I don't know. Maybe she's just like not. I don't have her as present in my mind. I was like, oh yeah, no, that is.
To be fair, she does always like usually have shorter hair, and now she has like this crazy like pop out wig, like an actual crazy professor and doctor. So maybe I get it from that point of view. But I mean, even John McGorrow, who had a stellar year last year with Omaha, Curlin 75, The Mastermind, The Materialist, and now it's like he's in this, and it's like he's invisible. I love when John McGorrow like shows up on screen, but he was invisible in this movie. And funnily enough, his name in The Bride was Clyde. So
yeah,
I guess Bonnie and Clyde, another reference.
Yeah, I mean, some of the references that we have here, like you can see where they're taken from. Like the opening is very Persona-like. Then we got Top Hat, Metropolis, Babyface, the original Frankenstein. Funnily enough, she didn't put the Bride of Frankenstein, which, by the way, the Bride of Frankenstein is way more like a comedy than the first one. It definitely was like, I wrote down in my notes when I was watching, is like, wait, is this a comedy? And I checked in the genres, and it's not a comedy. It is clearly a comedy. It is very funny at times, of like how, like, in this original Frankenstein, in the first one, he just kills a little kid, and all of the letterbox comments are like, I don't blame Frank, like the monster, because like why would he know that this not my language, that this little bitch can't float? Okay. And in the second one, he just kills another kid off screen. So in that original thing, he is clearly just the monster, right? There's no humanity to him, and all of the scientists are like comically evil, like they're very one note. And I think that's sort of, maybe it's just the Guillermo del Toro one, or like what I see to see that, like, no, Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein is actually the monster. The creature is not the monster, it's the creature, right? Like, I think a lot of that is just like as recent as Guillermo del Toro's take on this story. But I guess it wasn't always. He really was just like that villain character, similar to like Dracula and like those things, which like literally overlap. Like the last one I watched out of all of these was called The House of Frankenstein, where there's just like a bunch of these, like Wolfman, Dracula, like they all are in the same.
Yeah, the team up. Yeah.
They're not really I don't know. All of these movies are like, they're kind of odd. There's like a character that's called
those
Igor
older
that
movies,
sort of takes over. they're very messy.
I mean, aren't they like the monsters, adventures of the 30s or 40s whenever they were produced? Like, yeah, I mean,
there were so many of them, and I've seen a bunch of them. I haven't seen Dracula, but I've seen Wolfman, that original one when that movie came out was that last year? It felt like 3 years ago, but I think that was last year. We've come a long way since then. Obviously, there were like adaptations of the story before in theater, and there's been so much about Frankenstein. It might be the most it's definitely up there. Maybe there's something else that has been adapted more, but it's probably one of the most adapted stories of all time.
The timing of this movie, we also we addressed it in the intro. I guess we can talk about it now. The Bride usually normally was supposed to come out 2025, but you have obviously Jesse Buckley's Hamlet, but you also got another Frankenstein in Del Toro's one. So those are two reasons, I guess, to delay the movie, besides the reason of not being very confident in it and not to hurt any of your other movies during that campaign, which is Warner Brothers. So, I mean, you would have put your money into One Battle After Another and Sinners anyway, which they are probably going to win. One of them is going to win Best Picture. Highly likely will still be One Battle After Another for me. But yeah, it shows why they delayed this. You could say for multiple reasons, but I think
as March has become more of like the dumping ground for some movies, or like February, March.
Yeah,
and it's like the first
it used to be
March.
January, but January was good. So
yeah, because a lot of that bleed over of like getting wide releases for some potentially still Oscar relevant movies, or and a bunch of good like actual like kickoff starts for people who wanna not just like watch the Oscar stuff. There's usually something to counterbalance now, and really has sort of shifted. I obviously think that people will not most likely like really champion this film, but I think it's going to find its niche audience that actually kind of likes its messiness. But yeah, I can't really say that. I honestly, like, I didn't completely hate it. I could have gone way lower on the rating. I ended up on like a 5 out of 10 because I think some of the crafts in this are still quite well done. Not the cinematography, not the editing, but more the actual performances that are, with the text that they're given, they're quite decent. Also, I think in my one-liner on Letterboxd, I said it's just a Jesse Buckley vocal stimming for like 2 hours. The thing where you just like are hung up on a word and sort of repeat it the way that she's like, because that's like her performance is quite impressive of the sort of rhyming things that the association, and sort of if you would track that character a bit more carefully of what she's, because she feels like she's someone who acts first, thinks later, or like is so willing to make that first step that you could represent it in the character just like talking constantly, then sort of having a like tracking point for where that character's at with the way that she speaks. If that was a bit more thought through and concise, it actually could have been a bit better.
By the way, at some point I did thought Jesse Buckley's character had like Tourette's, the way she was rhyming and just like sort of twitching, etc.
Yeah.
And it's just because of recency with I Swear and all that. But I gave this movie a 4 out of 10. It's like you said, like the fact that these had the same cinematographer, the music didn't even do that much for me. It's edited by the same person that edited, Magnolia, There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread, Boogie Nights, Unbreakable, The Town, The Assassination of Jesse James. It's like so many great movies this guy edited, and this movie just didn't feel like. And I truly think my hardest of hearts that Maggie Gyllenhaal just needed one step above The Lost Daughter and then get to The Bride. I honestly think once she had that experience with a bit more studio filmmaking, this movie would have been better. But unfortunately,
I think
it wasn't.
The way that we talk about the editing and the test screenings, that first experience, it definitely feels like there's a lot of like stuff that has been cut that makes this such a mess. I don't know if there is in any place a better movie that was shot. I don't think so, but it just comes to like, it just kind of shows that maybe that's partly why it's also so off for me in the editing, that there was something wrong about like the whole thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, anyways, that's our main reviews done. Let us know what you think of Hoppers and of The Bride. did you like it more than us, or have you read the novel or watched all of the movies like I have? Because I think with like how much this book has been analyzed, and I think there's a lot of like probably gender studies that could look into like a variety of these movies that could be very interesting. And if that was the aspiration for this film, it really fell short. So
Also, have you watched We Bear Bears? Because, hey, who's your favorite bear of We Bear Bears? Like, mine is the Ice Bear, because the Ice Bear is cool and actually wants universal healthcare. So you should watch it, honestly.
Yeah. My favorite bear is probably the black bear because he talks a lot. I like him.
The black bear?
Yeah, the brown bear. The one that's like...
oh, well, yeah, the brown bear.
Brown bear. Brown, black, all the same to me. Anyways, let's talk about our spotlight reviews of the week, and we got a few. First, we're going back to 1993 for Brian De Palma's Carlito's Way, starring Al Pacino. Free after years in prison, Carlito Brigante intends to give up his criminal ways, but it's not long before the ex-con is sucked back into the New York City underworld. This was part of the collection over on Criterion called The 90s Doing the 70s. I was like, I gotta jump on that as soon as it's still available. Brian De Palma, the director behind the, Scarface remake from 1983, also starring Al Pacino. He also made Blowout, Tom Cruise Mission Impossible. Kevin has it on 4K Blu-ray, but he also directed Carrie. I always forget that Brian De Palma directed Carrie.
Bro, I was just going through his filmography, and you just forget how many bangers this guy has made. It's
and
crazy.
Sort of, the darkness in like his posters as well. You can see that this is like a stark contrast in his worlds, and I think they are like quite approachable in these characters that are either on one side or the other of like the right and wrong side. I'm just looking at that, and that's sort of something that runs through his filmography and the sort of projects he attaches himself to. But Al Pacino, Sean Penn, soon to be maybe Oscar. A second-time Oscar winner, Sean Penn, but also John Leguizamo. I'm sorry, Louis Guzman also in this. Viggo Mortensen has a smaller part in it. First, we are in New York City, 1997. I gotta say, what the fuck is that haircut on Sean Penn?
That's the first thing that I messaged to you while watching this movie, right?
What the? Yeah, I mean, I also wrote that down. That is like, he is just that haircut alone is like, oh yeah, you are a scumbag. I watched this, over a week ago. You caught up with it, so we could talk about it briefly here. What did you think about Carlito's Way?
Carlito's Way, it's just the Palma being the Palma, and I haven't watched that many movies of the guy. I've only watched 4 so far, them being obviously Mission Impossible, Carlito's Way, The Untouchables, and a movie called Hi Mom! Exclamation point.
What?
There's an exclamation point in it. It's a Hi Mom with Robert De Niro, and it is a wild movie.
That poster is crazy.
If you want to watch it and talk about it next week, we can.
I have it on my watch list for a while, but I've seen Blowout, I've seen Carrie, and I've seen Scarface too. I've also seen Sisters. But yeah,
cool. You see more of him, but it's just
a competition.
No. I didn't mean it in that way. I apologize.
Okay. You're good.
But yeah, it's just the Palma, and also Al Pacino is incredible in this movie. And I was just gonna look like, has this movie, gotten any Oscar nominations? Probably has. Nope, nothing. Like, damn, that's crazy.
You think this would have deserved an Oscar nomination?
Yeah, for Al Pacino's performance alone, yeah. But I guess it's perhaps a bit too close to
his crime genre, woman, probably. Like something that
probably to Scarface as well, but
it's too action heavy or sort of thrillerish. I think that it's not. Maybe there's also the hangover of.
Oh, it makes sense. He won. So this movie came out in '93, and he won the Oscar for Scent of a Woman in '93. So perhaps it's like, oh, we already gave it to him. So
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what came out that year as well. But this movie is old. We're gonna talk spoilers. So this movie obviously starts with Al Pacino getting stretched out, and I love Al Pacino narration. Maybe not so much anymore these days, but like back in the day when he had that voice, so good. So he's on that stretcher and he's saying like, "Oh, it's not my time yet." So there's still that sort of up in the air or of whether is he gonna actually die or not. And so apparently it's this trope of how we got here trope. It's something that's been bothering me a bit. That sort of trope, if I'm honest. For me, most in the more recent things, you obviously got Nobody 1 and 2 that always open with that interrogation in front of two cops that have no idea who he is, and then the story plays out. It was in Atomic Blonde. It was also in The Gentleman, if I recall correctly. And I was just wondering for you, if that's something that works in movies, because in Carlito's way, it almost worked for me purely based on the length of the movie, because you almost forgot where it ends up, even with that thrilling Grand Central chase sequence where there's like 3-minute oneer as well. You know, I love oneers of him getting chased by the mob, obviously. So does that sort of story beat work for you?
I think it often it depends because this is also a novel adaptation. So there is a basis for it, and I think that framework is way more often used in books, where you start at the end and the whole thing is then laying out your whole story as this epic saga. And I think movies have really started to do that more and more. Here in the sort of sense of look at this character being doomed from the start, no matter what he tries to do to amend himself. And I think it sort of is like a bit of a shortcut reminder that we are actually not endorsing all of the bad things that are going to happen in the story. Maybe. I don't really get why it was done in this movie. I think it was kind of pointless because it is such a like crazy reveal of like he's almost made it and boom, no, you're shot, you're actually dying. And you don't get to live out your life. You don't actually get the happy ending. And the only thing I think they don't tell you who shot. Like they don't show you who shot at the beginning. I think. Right?
No.
It's not. So that's sort of
that's where the famous sentence of "Hey, remember me? I'm Benny Blanco from the Bronx."
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he's wonderful in that role. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very long. There's like it's almost like he's calling out to the audience, like, "Do you remember me from earlier in the movie?"
Yeah.
I don't know. It's also, you know, a lot of things that I don't know if Pacino would still be cast in this because he's playing someone who's Puerto Rican. He's not Puerto Rican, so it's like there's a lot of like oddities here that were very much of its time in the 90s, where sort of stuff like that was still, I guess, a bit more normal. Yeah, acceptable. But I think it's sort of a good time as well. And I think it's just like so much of it is the charisma of this lead character that sort of carries you through in this pretty horrendous world that is pretty scary. But he just like navigates it through with the sort of persona that is built. Like that's another trope of like the guy who everyone respects, right? It is somewhat similar to the trope of like the killer who returns, who easily mows through every sort of like action scene and has this sort of myth about himself. But then in the first scene where we are in that like a bar where there's like they're playing pool, and there is like violence that happens. It is very messy. It's not like he is very comfortable in this. He just has a way of surviving, and you sort of get an understanding that this character has not opened himself up to be depending on people, and that is why he was like safer maybe, or has been safe so far, like pushed away like his relationship thing. Like a lot of it I think is a shortcut of already having these things established before we get to see him for the first time, so he just gets to return to a world that like is sort of ready for him, or in the way that it's not ready for him. It's telling us a lot about him and how it's changed, and like I think that's all like great environmental storytelling that is like the show don't tell sort of thing for most of it. And then it just like sort of doesn't vibe with how it opens. But then, that's in the rear view. You move on, and I think a lot of it is quite enjoyable. The way that you the move through, you sort of see the things being laid out, like who's going to be the one, like who is betraying him, who's on his side, is there anyone on his side, like how does he get out of this, can he actually get out of this life, and sort of things that he still, like he needs a certain amount of money, and then he said like a lot of these things that are like something that he needs to reach and at what cost. Like it's nothing groundbreaking, but it is just very well done, like crime thriller action. And I would say those two first genres more than the last. It just has that really stellar, like I think that like chase scene in the metro at the
Grand
station
Central
is it's up there. It's like a really, really great scene, just as a whole, like the whole tension and
it doesn't surprise me coming from the Palma, especially with his most famous movie, The Untouchables, where you got that staircase scene with the baby stroller. I mean, it's so famous for a
Blowout
reason.
has a great scene too, about just the observation part. I think it's in the opening. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's also
I guess this movie, you did call it like it isn't groundbreaking. I guess this movie is playing a bit with subversive expectations, because this is still Al Pacino, who is coming off Stand of a Woman, sure, but also Scarface, where he played this very loud gangster. Now all of a sudden he plays this gangster who wants to be out of his life. So in terms of that, it is a bit subversive on his character and on his persona. And I liked it in that aspect a lot. It's also with him, you got Sean Penn, where he, he's the good guy, and you got Al Pacino who's coming out of prison, and like as the movie goes on, there's like this sort of crossing, and then you got Sean Penn at a certain point is worse than Al Pacino, and seeing that journey that Sean Penn is taking, which he's acting brilliantly. I mean, the guy has been doing it for a long time. Sure, some people might have discovered him only just now in One Battle After Another, but he has been doing it for so long, and it shows why he's been doing it for so long, because he's wonderful. In Carlito's way, he's such a scumbag, man. Well, such a scumbag.
When he like kills the guy, right, and it's clear that he, like, spoilers, right? He took the millions, and it took the million.
Yeah, it took the million.
It wasn't multiple millions, and
just one.
Like he says, like we're even, right? Such a great moment of like, you feel like it feels like it's like the sort of not a scale imbalance. It feels like there's some mechanical thing that happens in this movie that's like boom, and then it's settled, and it's like it's so well done, the way that he like leaves him out to dry as well, to like not help him but also doesn't kill him. And then there's a shot of like the cockroach, and I was like, okay, that's a bit on the nose, but I like it. But yeah, overall pretty tense, thrilling movie.
A classic for a reason.
And something that I hadn't seen before. I think it was the first time you watched it as well.
Yeah.
And definitely worth checking out.
10.
I did give it, what did I give it? I think I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well, or at least a 7 out of 10.
You gave it a 4 out of 5, so you gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I liked it. I also did the ending of it with the credits of her just like on the beach, I think topless dancing. Was
she topless?
It looked topless to me. I thought I saw a nipple.
I think she was wearing a dress.
I don't know.
But it's also this bittersweet ending, because she's on the beach. She did make it to there.
But it's like her unborn child. Like it's
it's
like the sort of thing that they keep talking about, life at the beach or something like that. That's nice.
Up next, from the beach, which is a hot place, to a colder place called Cold Storage.
Yes, cold storage. When a mutating, highly contagious fungus escapes a sealed facility, 2 young employees, joined by a grizzled bioterror operative, must survive the wildest night shift ever to save humanity from extinction. Starring Liam Neeson as the grizzled bioterror operative, and Joe Carey as well as Georgina Campbell as the two young employees of this sort of I guess storage facility. We get a movie that dropped onto VOD just recently, and it is listed as a 2026 movie. It did have a sort of premiere in January in the States, and then had a theatrical run internationally that I think didn't leave much of an impact in the sort of discussion around this film. I really didn't see this movie talked about much. It wasn't wide release in the middle of February and has already dropped on digital as of March 6th. Joe Carey, outside of the Netflix grasp of the Mind Flayer or whatever the creatures are called in Stranger Things.
Mind Flayer? No.
Mind Flayer? Yeah, no, that sounds more correct. I don't even know. In a movie
I haven't even watched the last season, bro.
in a movie that is, starts off with the opening of when this fungus was first discovered, in a scene with Sosie Bacon, who's only in that scene, and then she is not in the rest of the movie. Just make of that, you can connect the dots, and then it is spending a lot of time in this film, sort of just getting to know these characters, especially Joe Carey and Georgina Campbell's one, that get to know each other. Maybe there's some romance, maybe there's some general interest, just two co-workers having the worst shift of their life. And then it's about this sort of outbreak movie, trying to survive. I think I found this movie quite frustrating in the way that it presents its characters, from this really, the comedic style and the way that they go about everything so quippy in a lighthearted way, in the immediacy of death being around them, and it's gotta have time for a little quip before I run for my life again. And it does that a lot, that I was kind of annoyed by the presentation of this film quite a bit. But did you have a decent time with Cold Storage?
I honestly thought Cold Storage was a really fun movie. I wasn't bored at all. I thought it was a small little fun B movie that came out online that you can clearly see that has been shelved for a bit, but only recently has been pulled off the shelves for maybe a couple of reasons. Hey, Liam Neeson, he had a very good thing with The Naked Gun last year. But it's probably more due to Joe Carey being a TikTok hit as Joe, obviously his musical career. I just quickly went to look, and he's
you listened to him right before this podcast. I saw that you were listening to a song.
Yeah, I was just listening to what is he up to, because I wanted to see why is he apparently a TikTok hit? He has 51 million monthly listeners on Spotify, which is an absurd. Which is an absurd amount.
Oh yeah, so, it's really, yeah. So that he is incredibly popular, and I think he was also touring as of recent. So he's just been even more present. Yeah, I've seen so many clips of some of his live shows. I don't know if they were older clips, but I think they were mostly new stuff. So I think he's been touring too. I don't know if he's still on tour, but
so in terms of that is probably the reason why Cold Storage has been it has come out of the storage where it was being kept, and we have Leslie Manville and Liam Neeson, who are clearly reuniting just to work with each other again, maybe have a few dinners with each other again after their work in Ordinary Love, I think it was called, a 2019 movie. And you have Joe Carey and Georgina Campbell, who are also having fun. And again, this movie just oozes, let's get together, let's have some fun.
Actually, this movie oozes, full stop. That's what this, it oozes. That green sort of fungus is disgusting. It's disgusting looking.
This movie also reminded me quite a lot of a movie called New Life, which came out a couple of years ago. Funnily enough, came out the year that they started filming this movie. So I don't know if they took any inspiration from it, but it's also this very low budget, sort of trying to be serious as well, movie that has some character work going for it, as they have some character work here as well, with them giving some backstory to Georgina Campbell and Joe Carey, and I honestly didn't mind this movie at all. I thought it was quite fun. It is maybe a bit weird that this is a movie from David Koop, because this is based on a book that he wrote, and it's like David Koop is a very, very good screenwriter, and you're just wondering what did they maybe leave out, or what potential was left from the actual budget from this movie. So maybe I'd be curious to read the book, but at the same time, I'm probably not going to.
I mean, he
mind
wrote the book and he also wrote the screenplay, huh? So it's like the rare double thing where like he does both.
Yeah, he did both. Yeah, I didn't mind the movie at all. Gave it a 6 out of 10. Very fun movie, very short movie. I liked it. Oh, but they never stepped in the goop though. Come on, man. Like
in a lot of ways, it was just like very careless. It felt in a lot of ways that like all of the CGI was done around them and not with them in mind. It felt very disconnected to me. I thought like a lot of the budgetary constraints were visible in some of the VFX shot, and
some are
on a scale which you can circumvent by like making it just goofier. But a lot of like the pretty grotesque stuff when people turn actually I think looked really good.
Yeah,
I think the cat was quite off, but
the boyfriend looked great.
Yeah,
I thought he looked stellar when he goes full. I guess Last of Us bloater mode.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like if you look at the movie from a plot standpoint, then it's so like basic, and that's fine if you have interesting characters. And it tries to do that. It just like didn't really work for me as much. I not that I completely didn't connect with any of them, but I just thought that they were, I don't know, just like setting them up that like we care for these people, and then you have clearly like a group of people we don't care for because they steal TVs, so they can all die. And it was like a biker gang. It was like, oh my god, come on, guys, watch Pillion and maybe have a bit more sympathy for these, gay S&M bikers. There's a variety or a spectrum. They are not just cannon fodder for this fungus. And like the way that it like explodes at like I guess I'm spoiling. But
yeah, don't spoil.
For like
you know what? No, you can spoil. You can spoil, so I can say something now.
Yeah, and just the whole 2012, like in a car riding from like the earth just like crumbling under you. I don't know. This movie was a bit much and then a bit little in certain places, and it just like comes together to me like a 5 out of 10. It's just like pretty like forgettable movie to me overall.
Sure, I might forget this movie as well, maybe in the future, but I still had fun with it. I will say though, I think it's hilarious that we've gotten 2 Liam Neeson movies in a row now, where you can really feel he has left the action chapter of his career behind. Because in The Naked Gun, it's very clearly like old man combat, and because he has made all these like straight to VOD, some have actually released in theaters, like action movies that are never terrible, but also never really that great. And now we got The Naked Gun, and in this movie where he essentially even can't do any of the action because he has a broken back, so he's lying on the ground for most of it. And I just think it's an apt thing to finish on with his like action career.
I just see that this year he also has another movie coming out in 2026. I didn't know that he was in this, but he'll star in this film. 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank.
I saw.
Which I haven't read yet. It's a comic book. And looking forward to this. And then he has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 movies coming up.
Wait, what?
He has 11 movies coming up. Cold Pursuit 2, The Nut Job 3, A Celebration of the Life. I don't know. Evolution, Darwin's Dangerous Idea as the narrator. Then another thing was the narrator, so it's not really, The Trainer as John Moore, Mongoose as Ryan Fang Flanagan, Hotel Tehran as Larry, Narcos Up. Because I was wondering when you're saying, he's done with his action career. Okay, let's look what he's got coming up. Is he still doing action? Rikers Ghost, Narcos Up.
A sequel to Cold Pursuit, I wouldn't mind, even though I haven't seen it yet, but I wouldn't mind. The Rikers Ghost, a convict set for release, is forced to break a terrorist out of prison.
I mean, it's gonna turn 74
Oh my god, he's got a
this year.
Tariq Saleh film? Oh shit. A political thriller about an American journalist who travels to Africa to hunt down a murdered colonel and bring him to justice. Shit.
See?
That does sound like an action movie.
See, that sounds like a Liam Neeson movie. So I don't know. It's crazy. He's turning 74 this year, and he's still on.
But I vividly remember him saying in an interview a few years ago, like, "Oh, I'm done with these." So I don't know if these are actual like action movies or like thriller films. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah. If he's, it's different. Like, because I think Liam Neeson is always sort of a leading man, and then he was in The Naked Gun. He isn't in this. He is more a supporting character in it. So I think also the poster is pretty misleading because they're never in the place together, like looking down the hole, like that. Like they only have brief interactions with each other. He's more on the phone.
And it's mostly over the phone.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like a very okay movie. I don't really have much else to say about it. The green is pretty toxic looking though. So
yeah. Let's talk about War Machine, the new movie from Patrick Hughes. On one last grueling mission during Army Ranger training, a combat engineer must lead his unit in a fight against a giant, otherworldly killing machine. It's the new Netflix action movie, and we know how those usually are. Ewan, in this one, how they usually are.
I think it is. I think it is very easy to watch. What I was surprised by War Machine is that it has some pretty bloody kills, and it was pretty apparent to me that to me was just like masquerading for nothing else really going on in the story. So that was the only thing that sort of hooked you. But also a lot of deaths happen abruptly. We don't really make a connection with his unit, and half this movie is basically a training montage of I believe RASP is what it's called, like this special unit lead character played by Alan Richardson. Has a brother who he lost in like the opening scene of the film, which I wouldn't even say that that's a spoiler because it literally is like the first scene in the movie. And he sort of then set on this mission to become part of this special elite group because it was in a very like hand-fisted way set up right before the death of the brother. It was like, oh, hello, we see each other again. Yes, remember, we always dreamed of doing this together. Yes, we do. Boom, he's dead. No, now my only mission is to become that part of Army Ranger. I'm going to be the greatest, and he's so much better than everyone else. He's literally a war machine without a name. And all of it, it was grinding up against my overall hatred of armies everywhere, not just like the obviously incredibly well-funded imperialistic machine of the US Army, but also just like one for me here locally. It's something that I have a problem with. And when he gets such a movie that feels so much like a glorification of the one guy who's willing to serve for his country with all of his might and protect it, and he's justified in all of his ways because he can come out through and like slay a beast and slay the villain. I don't know. Like it works. Like we made that comparison that the second half of this film feels a lot like Predator in the way that you're up against this like killing machine that seemingly is mowing through everyone, and you somehow have to stay alive by like adapting and outrunning and outsmarting it. And even that part to me was pretty just alright-ish in this film. But I think between the two of us, you're still more of the action guy. You're also someone who's going to look at Patrick Hughes' filmography and going to say, no, he was done dirty here. Look at this movie. That's great. I'm calling you out already. So, Kevin, what do you got to say about War Machine and Patrick Hughes' filmography? I already know, man. I already know you've seen a bunch of his films.
I have seen a bunch of his films. I've seen 4 of his films. I have seen Red Hill,
Me too.
But Red Hill is actually a great little Australian neo-western, which I really enjoyed. It wasn't perfect, but I actually really enjoyed that one. Hitman's Bodyguard, I did really enjoy, especially, but that's mostly because of Sam Jackson's and Ryan Reynolds' banter. Really like that one overall. Then I watched Expendables 3, which I have no memory or knowledge of ever watching, but I know I have seen it. And now here we are at War Machine. I haven't seen any of his other films. And I get you on the propaganda side of things, but it's basically, indeed, like you said, taking the Predator route. We have to build up our character, literally say he is built different. And then only to really get thrown around and show how useless he is versus this machine, only to inevitably win against it, obviously.
Does it then make him useless? I think it's just, I guess, humans overall. It doesn't
human and like powerless, should I say. Maybe not, useless is perhaps the wrong word.
Yeah.
But it is a bit disappointing to see how Jay Courtney gets underused in this movie. It's like, I know Jay Courtney, I guess, or Jay Courtney, I don't really know how you say it, but I know he was in like a bunch of movies, right? Very early in his career, he was in like almost everything. He was in Jack Reacher, Divergent. He was famously McClane's son in A Good Day to Die Hard, and in like the mid 2010s, he was in like so many movies, and from that point on, he was sort of gone on the background. Was really good in Suicide Squad, and the Suicide Squad for the little time he was in that one. But I like the little comeback that he's doing now. I haven't seen American Prime Evil, but I did watch Dangerous Animals, and he was wonderful in that movie. I adored his performance in that. And it's just like, I want you in a good movie, man. I know you can act. You were like thrown in a lot of movies that really didn't utilize you well, but I want to see you in better movies, man.
I mean, same goes for Alan Richardson. I think he's not had like a crazy big breakout role, but he plays like a dramatic lead. But in Reacher, he has like the sort of, he plays a very like, obviously that same very capable sort of can deal with everything that's thrown at him, and also like almost like a wink at camera, not really, but like just very confident. And not the same character here. It would demand a bit more of him with the trauma that he carries, the legacy for his brother, and sort of like I didn't really feel that at all. He was just like very quiet and determined.
Hey, I can tell you, Alan Richardson isn't a good movie. You just haven't seen it, which is Motor City.
Yeah,
sorry.
I hope that movie.
I didn't want to rub it in your face.
No,
but
it's fine. It's fine. I mean, there he doesn't talk either, right? Or it's like at least not
true. But so, he gives a great physical performance in that one.
I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. We definitely will shout it out once it hopefully releases at some point.
If it releases, I hope so, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, also very underutilized. I mean, not even really used at all. Dennis Quaid and S.I. Morales were just these lieutenants or
I mean, they
colonels.
looked the part, right?
They looked the part. They are like, here, men. Today, like
they look
whatever.
right in army uniforms. That's all this casting is. It really is nothing more than that.
But we should talk a bit about this movie. Let's talk about some of the good parts, which is the action. The action is actually quite solid at times.
Yeah.
The ending is maybe a bit plot armor, absolutely unbelievable bullshit. But two sequences.
Excavator. Bro, I was laughing. I was like, holy fuck. Like, I got construction going on next to me like all week, and it annoys the shit out of me because like it has my whole I won't do it now because it's not good for audio. It like shakes my room, and it's so loud. And I was like, this is what one of their fuckers pictures if like there's ever an attack, an alien attack, they like see themselves as like the excavator like just going up against like this otherworldly creature that somehow he can pull him back, or it made no sense, but yeah.
But the two sequences I will heavily shout out and that I admire are the rapids sequence when they have to cross a certain waterfall sequence. I thought was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
And the truck sequence, at the moment they find the truck, they are trying to escape from it. You got these, it's not a oneer, but they sort of try to make it feel like a oneer with these long shots.
Yeah.
And I thought that was wonderful, like really well executed. And you can feel like this is the reason why this movie is getting made. And like even the reason why these movies, like these Netflix movies, are getting made at all. And it's not even only to Netflix. We've talked about iQIYI just last week, and I will talk about them in a minute again. But it's just like, hey, we need a flimsy story, and just so we can have these great action sequences that we are going to execute. And for that purpose, these movies work.
It was sort of the leadership that was thrust onto him, right? Because he's been failing failed this thing over and over again, which I think is also something that doesn't really work for me. That it feels like he's there for the first time, but then they say he's done this, like tried out this a bunch of times and was rejected. And but then they make him the leader on like a whim of like, oh, he's actually not sound. He doesn't also lean too much into determination versus like fatalism, or just like being ready to die, and like, you know. And then there's this one speech that he gives about like 2/3 into the movie where he sort of takes on that leadership role and says like, now it's all about getting back and warning the others, which is like overall by the end of this like pointless too, because it like was all over the world. The only thing he did is like
literally this could have been a prequel to War of the Worlds. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. And I think, like, overall, I was thinking a bunch of times, wouldn't it, if it just been better to try to survive instead of doing the army thing of staying together, but at the cost of everyone dying?
100%.
And I was like, by the end of this, like, no, yeah, I was right. It would have been better to just, like, get away from it. Maybe you get pulled back into because you're in the army and you're supposed to defend the people, and you're like, that's the part where, like, the propaganda is like, dying for a good cause. It was like, bitch, don't die. Just don't die, man. Try to stay alive. It's not like, and then his speech that he gives about coming back, if thematically, if I buy into this, when the guy goes for the bullets, the ammunition, throws it in and gets like,
oh yeah,
like that was a really powerful moment. Like it felt like pretty pointless. I was like, what are you doing, guy? And then it was like, no, it actually needed like that sort of the together we sacrifice and that's how we persist. And I just really don't like that sentiment where you put yourself in that place in the first place. And it really is like sort of circumvents all of that criticism when it's just like, oh no, big outside force, everything is justified because we are in a stage of emergency. And I think it's just like less interesting for an army character. Obviously it makes sense for an action movie, but it didn't feel like it was going into that direction, because I honestly didn't like watch any of the trailers. I had no idea that it was an alien thing going on. But yeah, like the scanning thing, right? And then it's just the amount of like, I was picturing way more like lasers being fired, but then it was always just missiles, and I was like,
yeah, missiles, and like you see the firework thing going up, and it's like, are you sure this thing is alien? Like it's just
it was just like very man-made weapons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the last 10 minutes of this movie are incredible. I mean, my God, the way that they come back and it's like, have you found a way? How did you take it out? By the way, doesn't even ask him directly. Like, it's just like, you heal up and then you tell me, look at this. There are like 10,000s everywhere on this planet. The whole planet is unifying. How did you beat this one? And it's like, bro, I fucked this movie. I actually, like, I get your, by the way, your like army training montage, but I actually thought it was well done in terms of like, real physicality and building up Alan Richardson's character, but in the ending, it fell apart for me. Like, I would have given this like a 6 out of 10 B movie thing, but I'm giving like a 5 out of 10 now. That ending was pure bullshit, dude.
Yeah, it's like the same way of the more war becomes even more present from the privilege that we can speak of, like not being a part of our lives like as immediate. And when you look at the US involving themselves into these conflicts, it feels like for young people that becomes ever more present. So I think the sort of glorification is to me even more disgusting when it comes out like this. So that's why like I'm really, but I honestly like I love good war movies that are about that have many facets. This is just pure action spectacle, and I just didn't really vibe with it. Apart from,
but the action spectacle is good.
Yeah,
I mean, most of it, not everything, but most of it.
Yeah, I think it's it's fine. It's not horrible. Like if you know, rating wise, I'm like at a well, actually not too great a rating, at a 2 out of 5 for this, but it's okay. I've seen worse things on Netflix.
I will say there is a similar movie like this. It's called Spectral, and that came out 10 years ago on Netflix, and I believe it was given to Netflix by Universal, if I recall correctly. But I really like
Legendary
Spectral.
Was a production studio, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually really dug Spectral. It again, not a perfect movie, but in terms of like a direct-to-video type movie, it really serves its purpose. And one other addition that I have is this movie is called War Machine. It's a Netflix original movie. About 9 years ago, there was another Netflix original movie called War Machine.
Mm.
And Brad Pitt was in it.
What, really? I actually don't know what this movie is.
Yeah, War Machine. So there are now two similarly titled Netflix original movies called War Machine that are 9 years apart from each other, share the same title, but have absolutely nothing familiar in story. I'm just saying, Ewan, maybe we should do something with this.
We should do something about it. That is something that is the case, because it's two movies 10 years apart with the same name on the same platform. Isn't that crazy? Like, you know, the way that he's number 81, but then also I think it sort of ends the movie in a way of like, what's your
What's
name?
His name?
And it cuts to like War Machine. And I was like, oh my fucking gosh, stop, man, stop. And then it's literally the movie's over. So it's like, okay, at least you listened to me. Did you say your rating?
Yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10.
4 out of 10 for me. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about this one.
I mean, it's a Netflix original action movie. The action is good, but the story is shit.
But we can expect more from it. Like, we got a Havoc last year, which was pretty shit in some of the plot elements, but like, the action was great. Let's talk about Heel. Tommy, a volatile 19-year-old, revels in drugs, parties, and violence. After getting separated from his friends on a drunken bender, he is abducted by a shadowy figure. He wakes up to find himself imprisoned in the basement of a remote Yorkshire house inhabited by a very strange family. But what unfolds is not what he could possibly expect. A movie led by Stephen Graham and Andrea Riseborough, also Anson Boone, who is the sort of titular. This movie used to be called, I guess, The Good Boy. They changed it to Heel. I don't know why they changed it to Good Boy. Maybe too many movies that also like sort of have that name.
Also, you have the Dog movie last year.
Yeah, too many things that are like named in a similar way. But he plays the pretty filthy guy that is set up in this movie from the get-go as like someone who you would not want to touch, like get in arm's reach with, or like even touch with like a 10-foot pole. He is really appalling from the get-go, and then it becomes about this very almost, you know, Stockholm syndrome thing of like trying to assimilate him to this family to hopefully make him better by tying him up and making him a part of their like family customs, which are all rooted in sort of niceness over whatever like horrible nature he has within himself. Kevin, I'll just throw it to you. What do you think about Heel? This was one that just dropped recently on VOD, so you can go see it right now digitally. And I think everything that Stephen Graham is in is, to me at least, worthwhile, because I think he always puts in this very like layered performance of like, you know, obviously a lot of people have seen him in adolescence, portraying this sort of male fragility while trying to hold on. Like the parenting thing is something that feels like it sort of carries through in just like a different type of role here, but he's still like, as that father character, carries a lot of like insecurities with him, but what he wants to sort of project onto like his actual son and this prisoner he's taken. I think it's an interesting character, but it's a pretty out there premise, right? Like, to me, I wrote down like it's giving Saw in a lot of ways, in the way that like you lock someone up, and because they've done something wrong, you try to better them. In Saw, it's usually ends with your death, and you have to like give something up from you, like physically like hurt yourself. And here it's more about like, no, we're not going to hurt yourself. It's not going to be Saw, but it's going to be about showing you step by step how you better yourself. And you don't fully know yet, is this going to play the route of, are they going to reveal themselves to be like very contradictory? Are they going to be evil? Is it going to be one note, or is it going to be more about the facets of humanity that are very like gray on the spectrum of good and bad? And I think it falls more into that gray spectrum, which is definitely more interesting. But what did you make of Heel?
I first heard about this movie when it debuted at Toronto, like at TIFF. It also played at the London Film Festival. Saw a few people log it, added it to the watch list. Now it's on VOD and I watched it myself. And like you said, whatever Stephen Graham is in, I will watch. the guy has had, a run, especially recently with adolescence. He's also gonna be in Peaky Blinders. And whenever the guy is on screen, like he's one of those actors, like a few other ones, that whenever he's in a movie, like he will make it good, or like he will at least make it better. I can't speak for Venom, too. Yeah, so there's a few of these movies over the years. Obviously, someone being shamed, in like a basement or like a solitary room has been done to death, in cinema, I would say. And you're always looking for a new angle in, whether it's 10 Cloverfield Lane. Right, you're tying that in with the Cloverfield universe, but it's actually so like very claustrophobic, and we're staying in that bunker, and then you make something alien out of it at the end. Here we got Heel, and it's very much a commentary on social media, especially like, hey, look at what the things you upload and the things you've done. It's like, are you really proud of this? By the way, the actor that plays the what's his character's name? Tommy. The actor that plays Tommy, he gets to say every filthy English like UK slang word in the dictionary. Like he says so many things. But I won't delve too much into the spoilers and the story beats of this movie, because I'm basically be telling the whole story. But I really liked Heel a lot. I think it's a refreshing take in this whole solitary confinement, getting kidnapped by somebody and having a like confrontation with them type genre. I guess it is by now. And I liked seeing Andrea Riseborough. I haven't seen much of her. I haven't even watched the movie she was Oscar nominated for, because that was kind of out of nowhere. But I thought the movie was pretty good. And I think the ending is one that, is food for thought, especially around, a certain syndrome. I won't go further into that one, but I liked it a lot. I don't think I've seen Stephen Graham with more hair ever than in this movie, even though he wears a little toupee. But yeah, solid one.
Yeah. I think I was a bit let down by it overall, just because I think there's a possibility to get into this a bit more than it actually. I gotta stay sort of clear of spoilers, because we're keeping it spoiler free. Because for me, where this movie ends, where it builds towards, doesn't really work. Not just on a character level that could be justified, but just logistically, and the reasons for it really was a bit odd to me. And a lot of it is about like always wanting to escape, and not being in the perspective of Tommy, because he's such an off-putting character. We are not like immediately rooting, even though something unjust is done to him. You are both rooting for him to get better, but also for him to escape, right? I don't think that like the way that they justify locking him up is ever good, but it holds those two contradictions where you're also just wondering how fucked up this family is. And I think it also sort of implies some trauma that they have had collectively as a family, but it kind of threw me because it never fully addresses part of it. It only like sort of talks about it, but never like gets like really lays it out for you. And I think it's like well enough that you can fill in the blanks, but some of the stuff that Tommy does and recorded and did, like he is so off-putting from a part where it's really hard to read him on how much it is a performance, and a lot of it is left off screen, that progress. And I think or the jump is like too quick, and it sort of didn't fully fill out that character in a way that I think it would have needed for this to fully work. So it only like, partly works for me. I think it works really well on a like movie level of like it chained up, and then having not a spoiler, but later in the film he gets to walk a bit more freely around the house, but still like chained up.
Can I say what a handyman Stephen Graham is for that? Like I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, like in the time that this happens, it doesn't feel like it's that much time that passes, and boom, he's just like done the whole thing. Yeah, I think the kid that they have was sorry, I'm the guy who calls out kid performances even though they're just little kids. So like, let's not harper on them. I think this kid performance was, the writing was bad, but also the performance was really bad and stiff. It was giving me like the 100th casting video that I've seen of like the same performance, the way that he was reading these lines. The casting sort of inflation thing that like every kid does of like they are now an actor performing didn't work for me at all. So that was another thing that like made it a bit harder to connect. I ended up on a 6 out of 10. I think it's still kind of interesting, especially with that ending, to talk about the film further in spoiler section. Oh, like we won't do that, but like, you know, to talk about it more, to talk about it more. But yeah. It's okay.
You gave it an 8 out of 10.
I give it a 6 out of 10.
Next. What's up? Next.
Let's get to individual spotlight reviews. And Kevin, you watched some stuff over on iQIYI, right? A whole trilogy of films called Fight Against Evil.
I watched Fight Against Evil 1 last week, but I was a bit disappointed by I called it the movie that you like slog that you have to get through to the good parts, and that is the definition of that, the first movie that is. But now we get to Fight Against Evil 2 and 3. Seemingly it had good views or numbers, whatever it did on the key, and it won it spawned a sequel with Fight Against Evil 2, which has a surprisingly dark opening for an action movie. Like, I will tell you it very quickly. So we get this husband and wife. The husband is like the performer for the show, and then the woman gets on stage, and it's sort of like a strip club. But it's done a bit more cleanly with like a performers club or whatever it was. The woman goes back to the dressing room, and all of a sudden there's this filthy guy that is like, "Hey, here," shows a bunch of money on the table, and like basically says like, "Hey, we're gonna have sex," basically. And it's a bit grueling, and it's like, "Oh my god." And then the husband finds out, and it's like they both come out of poverty, and they're trying to go for a way like to go up in life, and now they have this thing both at their strapped at their ankles. It's like, oh my god, like how do we get out of this? Like, do I go to kill him, etc.? And like all of a sudden they are on the roof, like on the balcony, and they're looking out, and they're like talking like, how do we get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
The guy fucking jumps, and the woman jumps with him, and it's like, fuck, man, this is the opening. Like, this is way darker than action movies usually, and it's a surprisingly dark movie. And then we also have the main guy who plays the cop in this movie, is Shi Miao. I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, but you will have seen him in other movies, Ewan, because he was both in Eye for an Eye 2, and then he also was in Hunt the Wicked, but I don't think you've seen that one. But he's basically the blind guy in Eye for an Eye.
Yeah, I remember
Absolute
him.
Stellar action performer. And he is also, I believe, the lead in The Furious. And you know how I feel about The Furious. If I could watch any movie this year, even above The Odyssey and Dune 3, yeah, it would be The Furious. But Fight Against Evil 2 has really solid action. Like, thought it was solid as hell. Fight Against Evil 3, what an absolute whiplash of a tone switch that is. Because it uses the same sort of story beats in the as the second movie, but in a way more comedic tone, and the action is also very good, I must say. The reason that I was inspired to watch this trilogy of films was because the third one, I had a couple of reviews, and someone compared it to Baby Assassins. Like, Baby Assassins, same choreography and like inspired sort of action. I gotta watch it. So I watched Fight Against Evil 3. So it uses the same story beats, but it doesn't do it as effectively in the second one. But it's quite funny at times. It does misses as well, and the action really is very, very good. It just was a bit like messy tonally overall. But hey, Ewan, you want to talk about propaganda and like everything? Do you want to know how this movie ends? And I'm not even talking about the actual ending of the movie. I'm talking about, you know, those title crawls that are in the end of the movies. Yeah, I will quickly tell you the one of Fight Against Evil 3. Maybe you've already read it, but I'm still gonna tell it to you. And it's like, in 2022, the Ministry of Public Security took the lead in establishing a special task force to combat crimes involving the abduction and trafficking of women and children. From March to the end of 2024, public security agencies nationwide carried out in-depth special operations to crack down on such crimes, emphasizing both the stringent suppression of criminal activities and the rescue and resettlement of victims, thereby building a new framework for anti-trafficking efforts. By the way, this appears on screen for like 5 seconds. You couldn't even read. I couldn't even read all of it. And then it's like, as of today, there are 2 million police officers across the country. And then you got the, your title end credit. It's such a fucking weird propaganda piece of thing to end this comedic movie on. But yeah, in terms of action, my God, you should definitely watch Fight Against Evil 2 and 3. And overall, I would say the second one, story-wise, is better, but action-wise, the third one... the second one is better story-wise, and the action-wise, the third one is better. That's what I've been trying to say. Yeah, go check them out if you can. I also watched Unleashed. You know that, you've probably seen it, that meme of Morgan Freeman in bed, and he's sort of waking up, and then, going back to bed in a smile, and he's, pulling his blanket over him. I was like, bro, what is that movie from? What movie is that from? Because I've seen that meme like so many times over this week, and I was like, I need to see it. So I went to look for it, and it's like Unleashed, Jet Li, Hopkins, Hoskins, sorry. Bob Hoskins in this movie as well as the bad guy, and I was like, all right, let me go watch it. I'm gonna watch a movie based on a meme, so I can do the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme when watching it. And this is such a weird movie because this is Jet Li, the one just came out, and he's been in so many epic movies before it. Pretty much established himself already, and I don't know if this was like one of the first. It's not even really one of the first because he was already quite known internationally. But basically, this movie is also like has an alternative title called Danny the Dog. I don't know why. It's because he has like a leash, and he's like sort of a dog for Bob Hoskins, who is this gangster criminal. He's like, you will pay me, or I will take the leash off Jet Li, and he will beat you all up. That's literally the plot of the movie. And when Bob Hoskins and Jet Li get ambushed and they lose each other, then he gets sort of in connection with Morgan Freeman's character. And it's like Jet Li isn't really that great of an actor in this one, so you have two counterweights with Morgan Freeman and Bob Hoskins to each other. And the action is really good. It's coming from Louis Leterrier, who has done, Fast X, Now You See Me, also Don Lupin, and most famously, the Transporter films. So this was really one of the first movies that he did. I think so. Yeah, Transporter was before this, and it's solid. It's not great. It's solid actioner. I would recommend to watch it. Even so, you can just do the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme as well. Watch the movie called Symphony for a Massacre, or Symphonie pour un Massacre, because it's French, from Jacques Deray, most well known for the swimming pool, also known as La Piscine, which was one of the first movies that had that famous swimming pool with Alain Delon kissing, and she was naked or something. If you know, you know. And I watched it with my dad. It was very fun. Then I watched Epic, which is the shorter term for not really being epic, but Elvis Presley in concert. I wasn't that big of a fan of Elvis. 2022, my God, it's been 4 years already. Kill me. And yeah, so Baz Luhrmann, not really that big of a Baz Luhrmann fan as well, but I am immensely surprised. So from what I remember, during the making of Elvis or something, they went into one of the vaults, these famous vaults where they keep all the old stuff, etc., all the archival footage, and they found something like 69 hours of 69 tapes. I don't even remember. I'm not even trying to be funny with the number. That's just the number he said in the interview. And like they found a lot of archival footage, concert footage, and apparently some of it didn't even have like audio because they filmed that separately, or like they take that separately, and then they also found audio tapes. So this movie is like a blend of rehearsal footage of stage performance in his residency of Las Vegas, interviews, even a self-narrating audio tape. So I must say I'm mad impressed with the work that went behind this concert film, quasi documentary film. It's not even really one thing. And two parts specifically, like in terms of editing, I was so impressed by was the Polk Salad Annie and Suspicious Mind. Those two songs, because you have to know, like he did apparently 1,100 shows in Las Vegas from what was it, almost 10 years. Like I want to say 68 to 77, if I remember correctly. And they briefly mention Colonel Parker's involvement and obviously exploitation of Elvis in Vegas, but they don't dive too much into that. I guess therefore watch the movie of Baz Luhrmann if you want to make it. But it's also very interesting because, for example, during some of these songs, they cut back and forth to different type of Elvis, and you can see that most clearly by his outfit, but sometimes you can see that by his physical state. Because at some points he's this slimmest guy in the room, and at times has put on just a bit of weight naturally. If you know, he was doing drugs and all that. So Elvis Presley in concert at a few times in the movie, I will say it was a bit dragging. In terms of concert films, Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads will always be at the top for me. But I gotta say, Elvis and Presley in concert at times came pretty close, I must say. So yeah, there you go. That's all my spotlight. But I will spoil already. Ewan's gonna do a book corner, so I'm gonna do a physical media corner. I've got some new movies.
Hey, I'm doing the thing from Hoppers. Yay!
So I got Hope, Stellan Skarsgård. The reason why I buy some of these movies, sometimes they're cheap, sometimes I'm genuinely interested in them, and most of these, actually all of these movies do come from the UK. So I live in Belgium, and the physical media market in Belgium isn't that great, but because I live in Belgium, I can pull movies from, the Benelux area, but can also pull movies from Germany, can also pull movies from France, I can also pull movies from the UK. Again, the online market sometimes is wonderful to live in Europe with. I got Instant Family. I actually really like this movie. Sue me. I got Cairo Conspiracy, which I believe the original title is Boy from Heaven. You interviewed the director, right?
I did, yeah. We talked for a half an hour, I think. He's a talker.
But it's called Boys from Heaven originally, right?
I don't think it's Boys from Heaven, but it's very close to that. I forget what the original title was. It changed after I did the interview with him. I think we still say the original title in the interview. Yeah.
I'm gonna look like an absolute nerd right now. I got this anime movie.
Oh, you got the Schoolgirls on Blu-ray, Kevin.
Yeah, nah, I didn't. But this movie apparently is rated really well on it has like a 3.6, 3.5. So why not?
Okay.
The movie that snubbed Glenn Close of her Oscar, The Wife. I will see why she has not won for it, or did she deserve to win for it? I have absolutely no idea. I got Evangelion 3.33. I have not watched a single second of Evangelion in my life.
Evangelion.
What?
It's called Evangelion. It's not
Evangelion.
Sorry. I shouldn't have corrected you. It makes it even funnier. I was like, look at this. I have it physically. I don't even know what it's called. It's like an anime series that has a bunch of different endings, right? And I've watched a few episodes, but I've always got this far that I kind of need to restart for again. Like I never got too far into it, but it's on the watch list for me too.
Yeah, I really want to watch. I was hesitating to buy the first and second movie years ago when it was cheap, but I was like, I want to watch the original things first. Yeah. And those are almost out of print now. So when I saw this movie for a decent price, I was like, I need to jump on it before that one goes out of print as well. And then the last two really highly rated movies. We got a Johnnie To movie that's adding to the
What's this one? I can't
physical
read it.
collection called Running on Karma.
Ah, okay. Running on Karma.
Running on Karma. I really like this movie as well, but I like all of his movies that I've seen from so far. And last but not least, we got Cloud and Charisma. We got two Kiyoshi Kurosawa films.
I didn't know that this was on physical media because it's on Criterion, right? It was streaming on Criterion, but
yeah.
Okay.
So in UK, I guess Eureka had it.
Yeah.
And it's like a double feature, Cloud and Charisma. And I got this for a pretty good deal. And I'm really excited, honestly, to rewatch Cloud. It's been like a year.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's probably been over a year now. And you just know how I love the sound design of that final action fight, man, in Cloud. It's so good. Yeah, now I got Charisma as well, which I don't know much about, if I'm being honest.
Such a funny sentence by itself.
And it obviously stars Koji Jakusho, which we both very much love from Perfect Days. The most. Yeah, really looking forward to rewatching Cloud, but also watch Charisma. That's my individual spotlights done.
Let's talk about some non-Asian movies. I'm sorry.
I talked about a French movie. I
know. It's just too easy. It's just too easy to clown on, even though it's not true. You know?
Rage bait. Rage bait.
Just two bros rage baiting each other. You talked about a concert film with Epic, and The Moment from Charlie XCX, which premiered at Sundance and was like, always sold out. People could not get in. It was like crazy. It's been in theaters only for literally like a moment, and now it's already on VOD, and that's how I got to catch up.
Also, only in America, from what I know.
Exactly.
Maybe UK as well, but that's the only thing I know.
Yeah, and it's a movie starring Charlie XCX. Rachel Sennett, for example, plays herself in like one or two scenes where they run into each other. But then it's more Alexander Skarsgård who is more at the forefront of the sort of director of a concert film and the commercialization of the sort of Brad Summer that then by her label wants to be extended for a longer time by like making a concert film and sort of like watering it down so it's not really her identity anymore. It's not the club identity. Like there's a line in the movie where like they say like, oh, it doesn't really feel inviting to people. Like for families, they would turn it off if they watch it. And then like one of her creative director then says like she literally talks about cocaine, snorting cocaine in this. And he's like, yeah, but is it literal or figurative cocaine? It's like, oh my god. And it's like a lot of it is like awkward conversations of you don't want to just be the annoying like entitled creative, but you're like what all of this is like centered around, and it's very much about like the stress of being at the center of all of this attention and everyone wanting for you to make the most out of it, to prioritize, like extend the Brad thing as long as it's possible to be at the cultural forefront, and then how exhausting that is and how easy it is for people to misdirect you for their own profit and really not letting go of things, to just wanting things to end. I think it is an interesting movie. It's pretty entertaining one, but I didn't really take much away from it. I gave that one a 6 out of 10. But for anyone who's a Charlie XCX fan, I think this one is definitely worth checking out. It has some weird turns of the way that it wants to go about. Like it starts off with a bunch of montages of clips of people reacting to Charlie XCX, building her up, and then it uses the same people later on when there might be like some controversy around it. It's like fabricated around her in a way that doesn't really make sense if you know any of these creators and the way that they use them in the story. So it feels a bit like some things it didn't have in order, but it's okay. And then I also watched Scream 7. I didn't talk about this last week, but I did manage to sneak it in, and it is the worst Scream films of them all. It has the worst killers, which I won't spoil, but the literally the worst killers. It really is stupid. It feels like a retcon. I wrote in my Letterboxd review that like if Riverdale ever did like a slasher episode, this was what it would feel like. It really was just all dressed up to be like an empty corpse of the Scream identity. Just reanimated to make yet another sequel, and it did crazy well at the box office. So we'll definitely be seeing an 8th iteration, and they've run out of steam. Not actually too long ago. I think I liked the new direction that it was going in, but with Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega out, I really do not give a shit about Scream anymore, unfortunately.
Are you looking forward to Scream 8?
No. I think with Scream 8, you could do the turning 8, so it's like Scream Forever. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm probably they won't. They will just play it safe. But you need something daring with this franchise next. It's gone very stale. And people are still showing up for it, and I get it. It's like, spectacle slasher filmmaking that is very consumable, but it was void of any, like, I don't know if it did really well, even though like people were shitting on it so much. So it surprises me that I think it's like it's going to be not the first Scream films, or like especially the first one was so long, like in theaters, that it probably won't make that money, but it did well, better than the first like 2 of the sequel trilogy the sequels of the requel trilogy. It gets really complicated. It's just, dude, I cannot overemphasize, the killers are so bad, and the way, I'm not spoiling it, the way that they reveal it is just like by killing off every other suspect, and by the end of it, you're just like, oh, these are the only people left. I guess it's got to be them. It's so stupid. There's no reveal to be had. There's no finale. It is really, really lackluster. But yeah, I also watched The Bluff, which is this sort of pirate tale led by Priyanka Chopra Jones, who is this sort of retired like myth of a great pirate that was working alongside Carl Urban for a while until she like betrayed him, and now he's looking out for her. And then it's basically a movie all set on an island of her trying to survive, and it's a lot of killing, a lot of like action. It really is just like full all out action. It also has Tamura Morrison in here as a second in command to Carl Urban. I think Carl Urban was born to play a pirate. I just like, it fits him so naturally. And Priyanka Chopra Jones also is like giving a pretty like well done physical performance. I think it's like really fine. I think the story, it's very expected. It's very predictable, but it's still decent. I gave this one a 5 out of 10, and I'm kind of surprised that you didn't check this out. I thought that, it might be something that you're interested in.
I honestly forgot it existed.
It's a Prime movie.
I might.
Those get sort of these Amazon Prime movies just get sort of dropped without much fanfare, unfortunately.
Honestly, look, if I probably would have missed War Machine as well if I didn't know about it. Like, I just caught you sent me the trailer or something, and like that's the only reason I heard about War Machine. For perhaps from a week of 2 from now, I wouldn't even have heard about War Machine.
I think it's what we bring to this show. The dynamic is interesting in a way that, like, if something is talked about on film Twitter a bit more, you've heard about it. I probably haven't, unless it like breaches into like a wider sphere, because I don't check it that often. Yeah. If something is like on the press schedule, the sort of more corporate side of it, I will see it because I'm more paying attention more to that stuff, or like, so yeah, we balance each other out well, but I don't think that like The Bluff is going to be one of your, like, it has some pretty fun. I could already see some moments of it.
You mentioned Sea of Thieves in your review. I've played Sea of Thieves.
Exactly. So like, it's not that much of pirating. I think I'm just like sort of pandering there, but it's just like this only pirate related thing that sort of
look at this guy chasing letterbox likes.
This is how you're successful. This is how you make a killing. How to make a killing, from John Patton Ford, starring Glenn Powell, a movie that also sort of quietly dropped into theaters without much fanfare and flopped. It's his other movie, Emily the Criminal, was one that was quite well liked. I remember when it came out of Sundance. I see it's only at a 3.3 on Letterboxd, so not a lot of people ended up, ultimately loving it more than just a sort of mediocre rating. And I think I feel sort of the same way about How to Make a Killing. Give that a 6 out of 10. It's Glenn Powell, who is through his mom, who's sort of outcast from a rich family, still attached to a will, but he's like 8th in line, so he has to kill 8 other people to get that inheritance. So it's sort of then the comedy of like how easy it is to kill certain of these people. Like the kills are, sometimes they take a bit longer to set up, sometimes they don't. There's one with Topher Grace, Zach Woods is in this, and then we also get a Margaret Qualley performance that is incredibly odd about like this other kid who he grew up with, but she's also on this inner circle and wants sort of a pie of this as well. So it's like a sexy back and forth that didn't really work for me. Glenn Powell is still Mr. Charisma, but I think a couple of years ago, I think Top Gun Maverick, Lachlan and I was like calling him Glenn Powell movie star every time he popped up in anything. And it's a bit disappointing that like a movie like this that is led by him is not drawing in the box office numbers. And I think he deserves it. Not that the movie is great or anything, but I think he should be able to carry a movie like this, and I'm a bit disappointed that at least commercially it's not doing it. Like it can't be still like fucking Scream 7 like made so much money. Like why can't a movie like this that feels a bit more original somewhat do decent as well in a February release? So yeah, it's also
I wish, honestly. I mean, Running Man didn't make that much money as well, did it?
No, that was a huge flop too. Yeah, so that's why I'm a bit disappointed that he's supposedly has the chops, the look and the feel of like an action star. He definitely has. But he sort of doesn't, like, even with Twisters, I think that movie did well, but it wasn't just him. That was just as much Daisy Edgar Jones. And she has done these movies that I think are not the greatest choices for some of her roles, but at least they have done, I think, pretty well commercially for most. But also her recent run was a bit like off. So yeah, I don't know. This also just doesn't have as much sauce. It is playing it sort of safe in this story. It doesn't really have much to say. It's not that funny. It's just kind of funny. It's not that daring. It's just kind of daring. And it just sort of rides that middle line through. And yeah, ultimately, like from the premise alone, it should have been a bit more fun and a bit more intriguing, but it plays it a bit too safe. So yeah.
Well, I'm gonna see it in a theater when it comes out in 2 weeks or something.
Ah, right. Yeah, it's not out. Yeah, it's also not out. It's only been out in the States so far. So thank you for those who provide me screeners for this sort of stuff. And then I also got screeners
for... Watched it legally. I'm kidding.
I would never. Then there was also a recent series that just dropped over on Netflix called Vladimir, with Rachel Weisz and Leo Woodall, who plays Vladimir, a young replacement professor. Rachel Weisz's character has a husband who she's in a sort of open marriage with, and he's been sleeping with students. So there's this accusation from the school that he needs to be removed. So it's like, but he's so far, so close to retirement that he would get his tenure or like his money. So like this whole dynamic at play where this movie is like filled with a lot of like flashes of Rachel Weisz just being the biggest gooner ever and like just really horny for Leo Woodall. And it's kind of funny if you sort of look at what Leo Woodall's roles have been recently. He sort of was a similar role, not as sexual, in the most recent Bridget Jones movie. He also had that sort of role of like her, he's just a guy who was like into like these slightly, I wouldn't say older women. I think just like, I don't know. That always comes off as so dismissive of women of a certain age, to like, say they're like above a certain age and now they're old. I don't really feel that, but like older than him. And then it plays into that dynamic in a way that sort of gets a bit repetitive. It's the same thing that it starts off with something like, how the fuck did we get here? The series opens with him tied up around a chair, and her like she has tied him up in like a cabin somewhere. And the way that it gets to that scene later on in the series, which I think is like the second to last episode or something like that, or the last episode, it was off. It is weird. I think it's an alright show, but it wasn't that great. It's just a lot of Rachel Weisz being horny, and that's okay. But yeah, like I think it's like if you look at After the Hunt and this, I think this is more interesting though. Something a bit more commercial was Guy Ritchie did these movies with Robert Downey Jr., Sherlock. Like over a decade ago now, and he's back now with an Amazon Prime series that dropped all of its episodes on March 4th, and I've caught up with this 8-episode first season that I think will definitely be popular and will get a second season. It sees the, sort of literally young Sherlock, but also his friendship with Moriarty, and maybe how that slowly starts to like not in its first season actually. I think it's going to like go more into like the Smallville route of things, where a lot of it is actually I've never seen Smallville. I don't know how long it takes for them to actually be villains. Young Sherlock is a lot of action that you can sort of expect from Guy Ritchie, right? It's the sort of thing that is with him, you get what you expect, but it still has like I think it works well with these characters, like the quippy nature, the fast talking, the like a lot of that just like works well in his universe, and I wasn't blown away by it, but it's quite fun. And
I could have sworn you called Guy Ritchie washed.
Yeah. I'm not. I enjoyed it. I still call him washed for like retreading the same idea over and over again, but it's fine. Like if he plays in his niche, it works really well. But I think he drags a lot of like these actors into the same-ish roles, and it feels frustrating. And here you got like Hero Fiennes, Tiffin, and Joseph Fiennes, the brother and the nephew of Ralph Fiennes, and they embody the characters that they play really well. I think it's like it's part casting, it's part Sherlock really works well in this like retelling in Guy Ritchie ways, and it's a fun, lighthearted show. With a lot of depth still, but it's still very lighthearted. Then I also got to see the Berlinale Villa winner called Yellow Letters, Gelbe Briefe, which sort of sees two cities in Germany as if they were Turkish. So it like basically does like two cities, and they're like Ankara and Istanbul. Then it's about this actor, professor, but also writer, relationship that sees them ousted for sort of their political beliefs, and they have to like go into a different town. It's from the director who made the Teacher's Lounge, Das Lehrerzimmer, with Leonie Benesch a few years ago, that I quite enjoyed. And this movie, I think, just didn't really fully connect with me. I think it was having too many ideas that it wasn't really getting into. I think a lot of it is sort of using Germany and then flipping it so it's all like Turkish, but then talking about Germany as of right now as well as Turkey. It's an interesting dilemma of like having a lot of like themes to call out in like the way that you can openly speak like free speech in the way of like about politics, and how that plays into art, and how you sort of the concessions you have to take to not speak out on certain things, and the success that you can get like selling out in a way too, and it's an interesting exercise. I don't think that it's going to be one of the best films of the year for me. I feel like it probably peaked with sort of the Berlinale win. I saw a lot of people who were also sort of lukewarmish on it, similar to me. I gave it a 6 out of 10, and it's already out. Rarely, this never really happens where you have a festival premiere and then go straight to cinemas. And this one's already out in Germany and Switzerland. And then, I watched some older stuff. I'll just give them a brief shout out, some of the best films I've ever seen. Just like, briefly talk about them. I watched another film by the legendary filmmaker Agnes Varda, Les Bonheur.
Did you watch it physically?
I did not watch it physically. No, I watched it on Criterion because it was on Criterion. I really could not give less of a shit of him going, oh my God, you got it in physical and you don't watch it. Shut the fuck up. It's just like more convenient. Okay. This is nice background space. Okay. I love the box set. I don't need to watch it from there. It's not better quality. It's great streaming. on streaming. But I wrote down in my notes as I was watching this movie that like, Agnes, you are a revelation. This movie is from 1965 about a young husband and father perfectly content with his life who falls in love with another woman. And it's like, that doesn't give you much about what this movie is going to feel like, but it is sort of how easy it is to replace someone else in the relationship, the role of the wife of a woman, the things you do to sort of just fit to the mold of the man, and then not outwardly like telling at you how despicable he is and sort of the patriarchal structure that he's taken place in, and how comfortable he is with that, and how comfortable the whole world is with that, how rarely we like second guess that. That in 1965, like this movie was truly a revelation to me. I was blown away. I was like, how, wow, like so long ago, you were so concise, getting a feeling across. This movie should be talked about more. I think it's like a must watch. Really, really, really loved La Bonheur. I was considering giving this a 5-star on a first watch, but I think I arrived at a 9 out of 10 for it for now. But this will certainly be a movie that I'll revisit, and that I'll like, a lot of it feels like its influences are like palpable on a lot of other movies too. And then I watched Broadcast News, another film, starring Albert Brooks. We also got Holly Hunter, William Hurt. This movie also needs to be talked about more. Have you seen Broadcast News, Kevin?
Brother, no, I really want to though.
It is so charmingly complicated with these characters that are like, it reminds me a bit of Industry, like that HBO series, where you have a lot of characters that you're sort of rooting for, but then you're also like, they do some things that leave you scratching your head, and you're like, why is this person attracted to them? And like, the qualities that go all like conversations that are being had in this movie, back and forth, the journalistic integrity, the importance of like not just front-facing news, of having someone who's just like very charming on air that doesn't actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, that's William Hurt's character, who's sort of introduced in the film, talking to his dad in a way of like, I'm trying so hard to be good at school, but I'm just not getting good grades, and I'll just try harder. And then like later on, like literally the next scene, but like later on, he's like, no, he just never got to be smart, but he got to be good at the things to still succeed in a way. And you got Holly Hunter, who's like very driven, who's this producer, and Albert Brooks, who's a great writer, but he sort of wants his big break. He never feels like he's being appreciated for the work that he does. There's also an iconic scene where he's like sweating a lot. I won't say more than that. Maybe you've seen it already as like a clip before, but Broadcast News also should be like, it's not streaming anywhere that I would have access to, but I was really, really blown away by this amazing film. Definitely go check that out as well. Like, he's the director who made Terms of Endearment, right? The Oscar-winning film there. But the crazy thing is about James L. Brooks, he also had a movie out that I think it released this year or late last year, Ella McKay. And
late last year, and it flopped as fuck.
It was. I watched it. It's really bad. It's crazy. And the other film of his that I haven't seen is As Good as It Gets, and that might be something that I watch.
I haven't seen any of his directed movies.
Right. Yeah. But great work here. Really, really good stuff. I watched a Scorsese film. I don't really have much to say about The Age of Innocence. Daniel Day-Lewis is a actor who I always feel like I haven't seen him in that many movies. He, frankly, he also hasn't done like a ton, but he still has done quite a few. And in The Age of Innocence, it's like very much like an era that I don't really care for a lot. Like the sort of like the high life of like the rich lifestyle, and like these sort of customs that you sort of have to fit into, and it's like this 19th century New York City that is carried through by making your name through reputation. And then it's him being in love with Michelle Pfeiffer, but he's like about to be married to Winona Ryder, so it's about like their sort of love that can't be. And it's like a lot of it just like, it was incredibly well made because it's a Scorsese movie starring Daniel Day-Lewis. But I gotta say I was a bit bored with this. It might be a crime to some, but I didn't really have a great time with this. And then lastly, like another Rachel Weisz film. I don't know why I watched this. I think it was also it was available on Criterion. There you go. There you got your answer. At a Deep Blue Sea with Rachel Weisz and Tom Hiddleston from Terrence Davis, who I think makes like movies that, from what I've heard, are like very somber, very slow, and this is sort of about a affair that sort of lacks passion. It sort of goes around in circles quite a bit, and it's okay. I gave it a 6 out of 10, but nothing that like you have to check out. You've done your little corner of physical media. Finally, I have some physical media as well. Guess what movies it is?
Wait, you don't have movies, though.
No, I don't have movies, but I'm a bit of a bookworm. I've been reading a lot recently, and I've really enjoyed it.
Were you the worm in Hoppers?
That was a secret. Disney was like, don't tell them that I was the little worm in the background there. Like, I pop up in a bunch of scenes, a little worm.
Well, no,
but
the one scene, you're the worm that's come...
Yeah, I know. But I was also in the background a bunch. I think they cut me out a bunch. It was like not in my contract.
like Jack Whitehall in Frozen.
Yeah, I thought I had more screen time, but I guess I'm just a little bitty worm. I can't get that much screen time.
Your role must have been reduced to a non-speaking role. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think what they say in the business, which I've never heard of, is like getting the crow or something like that, which doesn't make any sense, but I guess it makes sense for me being a worm that is like then eaten up by a crow. It's a circle of life, man. Anyways, I got some books because I like to read, and I can read. Don't ever question me on that. I can definitely read. And
Bro, he hasn't even grabbed it. Oh my god. Bro, I'm gonna be here for 10 minutes.
No, I'm just gonna I also already have so many more. This is sort of my early birthday present to myself. And I'm always getting all the movies from my local bookshop, who's like a family-run store, second generation now. And I just like supporting them. And I also like to have physical books. It's just been very nice for me, like someone who hasn't read for a while, to get back into it was listening to audiobooks while I was reading has been great. And before we actually show you these books, I also read 2 books this week. One of them was Dune. And this was a long one, a hefty one, that I quite enjoyed. Really good book. But one that I haven't finished yet, I'm about halfway through, is Dune Messiah. That's soon to be adapted.
Oh my god.
But I've just been listening to the audiobook and reading along, and then I sometimes just read, and then I just listen to the audiobook. It's really been a nice back and forth, and I could recommend it. But for some of these classics, there's not really that option. One of the things I got is like Rainer Maria Rilke, Letters to a Young Poet. I got 2 Virginia Woolf books, one of them Orlando, and the other one A Room of One's Own, a really short one, but I've seen a lot of people talk about this, so I'm quite interested in this one. Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. We got a movie about what?
Bowens with the classics, huh?
Yeah. Some I got some more. This is a more recent book. I think this came out like 2 or 3 years ago. It's about Germany, and kaput means like broken, and how that sort of happened. I'm telling it to the audience, not just you, Kevin. But I've heard this. This is more an economics book that I'm quite interested in, or like taking a look at that. Wuthering Heights wasn't enough. I'm back to Emily Bronte. Sorry, this is Charlotte Bronte, different person. I don't know my classics. Jane Eyre. Then here we go. That's not a classic. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. Another adaptation that's coming out this year. And let's end with a chunker. When it comes to classics, the brothers Dostoevsky, from Fyodor Dostoevsky, the brothers Karamazov. This one's a big one, and Dostoevsky is always big, but I also am ordering some Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace, stuff like that. I have a bunch of classics here. I just like to read, and I feel like classics are classic for a reason. And they've just been really interesting to me. So I've been reading more, and I can recommend you do the same. It's good for the brain. Kevin, we're back, but it's late. Can't you tell? What? There's actually no time difference here at all. It's not that we run these episodes for a couple of hours too long. That actually has us question if by next week already this show might split off into two separate things. Don't be surprised if that ends up happening. Maybe it does make sense to give these Spotlight World Cinema reviews a bit more of an actual spotlight by itself, not to be tacked on to like a 2.5 hour discussion and then we have a couple minutes to like rush through them. But we are continuing on our journey with Johnnie To films. Every other week or so, it feels like every few weeks, we have a look at another one of his films, and you selected 2 this week. You watched Drug War the week before. And for a longer time, like My Left Eye Sees Ghosts was on the list of like, the one that we're watching next. So we got a movie from 2002 and from 2012. And I think we'll go through chronologically and we'll start with My Left Eye Sees Ghosts. So Kevin, could you give us a bit of an introduction for, why you picked this movie and what it's about?
Sure. So we watched for Chinese New Year, we watched Fat Choice Spirit, and it's like that was in the heart of the Chinese New Year. It's sort of a staple over there. I called it like the Home Alone of the Chinese movie period there. And I was like, okay, what's another potential like Johnnie To movie? I am gonna switch to Letterboxd, so I look dark. I'm sorry.
He's in the void. No.
Is Letterboxd down?
No, I have it open, but I already opened it before, so.
Alright, cool. Wait, let me quickly go to. Why is it loading?
It's loading for me.
So slow for me. Whenever I go to My Left Eye Sees Ghost, I get an error. We have gremlins in the control room. Why is it not working, bro?
It's just down in Belgium.
The gremlins have come to Belgium.
Well, it's also Letterboxd just didn't like that the last time we talked about the video store, we called it kind of lackluster. And it feels like they're struggling. And they're look who's struggling now. Can't even access our website. Ooh.
One of the reasons that I picked Johnnie To's My Left Eye Sees Ghost is I remember that being a very funny movie. And I wanted to, again, go a bit more in the comedic route. But there are a couple of other Johnnie To comedy movies as well, such as Running on Karma, which I showed earlier on physical media. Life Without Principle, I wouldn't really call a comedy, but I wanted to go into something lighter and different that I know is either hit or miss with you. Because it'd be a bit boring for me to constantly go to the greatest hits, and then we are sort of like on the back tail, and you're like sort of meandering. So I wanted to pick something that I know would either be a hit or a miss with you, and I picked My Left Eye Sees Ghost, which I still gave a 4 out of 5, and I still do. So I was just very, very curious to your reaction, but very quickly, the synopsis for My Left Eye Sees Ghost. A car accident gives a spoiled, troubled young woman the ability to see ghosts, including one of her former classmates. So, Ewan, obviously Johnnie To has so far been a hit for you. Is this his first miss for you?
I think if I had to, it's really hard. I initially on my memory, now I just went to Letterboxd and I saw I gave it a pretty low rating of like a 5 out of 10, so like right in the middle. I was like, no, it's still well made, so like I wouldn't call it a miss, but I guess I would say that it's definitely my least favorite so far, and it didn't really work for me. Like it has a central character that is very unlikable intentionally. She's supposed to be this like spoiled brat who just married a guy after like 7 days or something like that, and it's just there for the money. Like says at one point that she's achieved her life's goal to marry a rich man, and now he's died, so like now she just lives out this life and is like stuck in this other family that's supposed to give that's trying to give her like a job or something to do, but they also just don't really know what to do with her because she's so non-interested in anything apart from like chilling. And then it becomes like sort of a thing of, okay, is it about her gaining some empathy for people, maybe something in a memory, like through seeing dead people and ghosts, to have something there. And it never really connected with me, and I didn't find it that funny. I think the filmmaking itself was quite stellar. Like I really liked that specific first scene after her crash, where she figures out that she can, hear ghosts, but also see them. I guess she permanently can hear them, but because she lost her eye, like her eye died. I guess that's why she has like sort of access to the afterlife. And I think it then doesn't fully lean into like the comedy of like, oh, I see something that you don't. It does it a couple of times, but I think an American comedy would have leaned way more into that. And it doesn't really. And it becomes then a bit too unfocused to me, for like this former classmate, right? That sort of is up in the air, like how he passed away. Like some inconsistencies that didn't add up to me. Because, for example, there's like a girl that is like, what does it say, like 100 years old or something like that, but still is the same age. And the kid is supposed to have died when he was a kid, not when he was an adult. But he's an adult, like, as the ghost. So that to me was like something that it was like, what? Because he aged up.
I actually found that very funny because because the joke is like, I'm actually like pretty old, like, but do you want to see my original form? And they're all like, right. No. So I actually thought that joke paid for me.
But yeah, I just didn't laugh that much, and I was kind of the movie wore me out a bit, and I think I don't have really that much to say about it, because I feel like there's nothing to say like, oh, this is bad in this way. I just didn't click with it, and you did a bit more. So maybe let's hear it by what worked for you, like what was like funny.
I think this movie is actually quite hilarious, and all of it doesn't work. And I will agree with you. With one specific character, it's like a fat lady ghost stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you use that once, sure, but they use it twice, and it's like.
It becomes very central, to like
if you are going into the possession of like these ghosts can possess you, then you maybe would have done it with different ghosts and not just the one ghost for like joke. So only that part of the movie I find maybe a bit like not funny, but all the rest, and I think it's also a very fun challenge as a screenwriter to have a despicable lady actually have a redemption arc, because I feel like redemption arcs in cinema are always like the toughest one to pull off, but also if you are able to pull them off, they're like sometimes the best characters in cinema. And again, the introduction is so funny because it's like, oh yeah, I married this guy, and it's like originally she sees him as a challenge, and I guess there was some adoration there in to begin with, because she does grow to love him, but like it's so, again, the opening I found so funny because you open with this funeral, which is very like, okay, this is not really a comedy so far, and then you have like the one woman who's like crying, it's like and then you have one like no Mr. Like the wife or something, no, don't cry, yeah, it's much better. And it's like, by the way, I love the fact that the mother of Fat Choice Spirit, who's like an old demented lady, is like a very stoic, serious lady. So again, great casting on that front. But it's like, no, my daughter-in-law is actually over there, and it's like she's so confused and stuck. But then after everybody leaves, she does leave some incense in for him. So like there is something originally there, but she's like, yeah. Whenever, then after the funeral, she's like, yeah, but he told me all these lies, It's like, oh yeah, I'm in Stanford, I'm a rich guy, so I told him all different things as well. And then the mother's like, those are all true of my son. And it's like, what did you tell him? Like, did he know? It's like,
yeah.
I think, again, the comedy leans a lot in the dialogue, but also very clearly physically, with some CG, like cartoonish sequences as well.
Which, the mask stuff with
like
the eyes
mask, the eyes. And by the way, Johnnie To still directs the shit out of this movie. It's like the car crash, you have the bottle flip going off. It's so cinematically well done. But I was aware that like Asian like comedies, like I think it's fair for me to say that Asian comedies for you are just not
so far. Maybe it's also something that I warm up to them if they're a bit more recent, because it feels like there's even more so than maybe a comedy from 2002 from the States. I would find like annoying and offensive in parts that don't really click with me to like be engaged on. Not obviously you can have complicated characters. I just didn't think anything was intriguing at the beginning about her being like this, and then by the end of it I also didn't feel much. So like it was I didn't really have anything to grab onto other than I guess it's easy. She's easy on the eyes, so like it's like, oh, pretty lady with that pretty privilege. And I'm not just saying that on like a very surface level for like, oh, look, pretty actress, I'm attention, but also that's part of like her character too, in a way. Because I feel like she's also like sort of superior, or sees herself superior to like the other women in the film, with her sort of beauty in a way. Like, I don't know, there's a certain, maybe it's also, I guess, emphasized just with the like fat lady character.
That one. Yeah,
I guess. Yeah,
but I love it every time that woman screams because she shows up something. Like
the screaming of the two sister characters, right? When they like that was pretty fun. I like that repeated because it's like it's on the line of like, you don't need to scream so performatively every time, and they do it the same way every time, and it seems so fake, and that is kind of funny. Like, to me, it was like, if you lean into the slapstick sort of stuff, that I really, really loved Broken Rage, right? So Takeshi Kitano nailed that, and I think I was just awesome, hoping for something that clicks with me a bit more. A very different movie, obviously, but shares maybe some of the Asian comedy thing, like that sort of, and slapstick nature in some scenes.
I like Johnnie To has had a whole other bunch of comedies as well, like Running on Karma. It's not really comedic, but it has comedic tones for it. I
mean, I loved what was the mahjong movie? Sorry, it's late. I forgot.
Fat Choy Spirit. Yeah,
I thought it was hilarious. It was so fucking funny. Also
Sean Law, who is in Fat Choy Spirit as like the wannabe mahjong warrior, is also now the ghost in this one, and I just love his acting. He's so perfect in these roles, and he can adapt so easily, I find.
I forget. There was also her family that is like in the shows up in the hospital. And those interactions, like the contrast of how like shitty they are, and they are from like a rich family, and the contrast
with the whole like, oh, please do take a seat, like no, it's okay.
And then him like awkwardly grabbing something from under the chair, and it's like, it's so aggressive the way that he does it. It's like I was like scared. Wait, what is he doing?
But you name dropped Lum Sweat, which has been in every Toe movie that you've watched, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I mean, I've seen him. I think the first time I saw him was probably he's in Kung Fu Hustle. I don't know if he's like probably a smaller role there. But yeah, Breaking News, Election also 1 and 2, Exile, Drug War. Which Drug War, right?
Oh, we want to talk about Drug War? Let's get into Drug War.
Let's go. Yeah, sure. From 2012.
2012, absolutely. A drug cartel boss is arrested in a raid and coerced into betraying his former accomplices as part of an undercover operation. So, Ewan, I actually bumped my score up for this movie on the rewatch. I was so
4.5?
enthralled. Yeah, 4.5. I was so enthralled and so excited by it. And it's like, my God. And I what I said in the podcast a week ago, very shortly, because I knew that Ewan was going to watch it as well. I was like, the final shootout of Drug War. I'm not going to say it's better than the shootout in Heat, but I'm also not going to say it's worse than the one in Heat. I think it's on par. I was very excited for you to watch Drug War. What did you think about it?
I honestly think in these crime movies from Johnnie To, I always find it intriguing that there's usually the duo pairing of a criminal and a cop, and it's this sort of tete-a-tete, matching of wits, but usually we do take the focus of someone a bit more, and usually it is actually I think it's pretty much always where we get the criminal a bit more fleshed out. Not that any of these characters have much of like a character progression or something big that they go through. They are like sort of symbolically just like on the one side of the law and on the other one. And it is just sort of a big chase overall. But there's usually always something that humanizes the criminal, that like lifts him up into being more than just a criminal, and with the cop of like how dedicated they are. And that's sort of a through line that I notice in a lot of his films, when it's not just like that the criminals are like in exile as badass as they are, and that then it becomes about like it's only about that, and the police is sort of a non-factor. but there's always something interesting in there. I think it's also noticeable that it feels stupid to say, but I think this movie seems wider because it is the first one that they shot is set and fully shot on mainland China.
Mainland China, yeah.
And not that the streets in like, Hong Kong are like tighter or anything. Maybe they are, but it just seems like because we are on the freeway, we're so often in cars, it just seems like it extends further. So it also feels like it's like, I don't know, everything feels further away. It all feels bigger. And I've seen some people say, maybe on Letterboxd, I don't know how many people have seen like much of his filmography, that some people think this is like an outlier in his filmography. Like having seen a bit more of it, I wouldn't say so at all. It's just like that they were saying like it has less action than maybe you'd expect from more of these crime movies that Johnnie To has done. I don't think so, because like a lot of it, like you said, like that shootout is a large part of the film. And there's not that many shootouts. A lot of it is like infiltrating, information gathering, positioning yourself, and this sort of is light spoiler. I would love to keep these sort of spoiler free if we can, but it's really tough because like some of the best moments happen towards the end and are spoilery. But it feels like it's all just like a big operation to infiltrate something, to ultimately that being pointless, because in the conflict here, it is very likely that it will end in a shootout and bloodshed regardless. So the whole thing, to me, at the end, felt like a giant waste of money and time and endangering just civilians,
Yeah.
Just for this movie to play out. For the story, not for the movie to play, not that the movie's doing, but like the story that unfolds in the movie is like.
I get what you mean.
And it's like, the thing when, like in what's it called? The one about, but in Breaking News, right, where it becomes so much about, we just want to have these public conflicts because then it will boost our ratings up for the media, approval ratings for the police. And here it also feels like, is this the best solution to go about this problem in that way, like using him this way? But yeah. Tell me, what do you like so much about Drug War? Maybe, like, why did you bump it up as well?
So, in all the movies that we have talked about so far, Election, Exiled, Breaking News, and you also told me this, so, like, there's a lot of complex things going on. Like, among the criminals, there's oftentimes this sort of brotherhood, this just unbroken trust that's there, and that's what you, like, naturally gravitate towards when watching Johnnie To movies.
Yeah.
And now you said it to me, these characters feel a bit one-dimensional, but like with a purpose. Like it makes sense, and it works therefore for me. So I quickly, did a little bit of research. So we both said this was we both mentioned the fact that this was the first Johnnie To's first movie with a fully shot and set on mainland China. And this basically it marks also his first film produced entirely under mainland Chinese regulations. This movie was subject to censorship by authorities like the State Administration of Radio, Film and Television, SRFT, at the time. And apparently there were like a couple of rules under there. Crime must not be glorified, which if you watch some of his other movies like Exiled, I mean, the crime is very much like, not glorified, but stylized.
I think it feels like he wrote a story that makes sense under this, not that through the censorship, his movie got adjusted, right?
Yeah.
Like, I felt that. I don't know how much of that was actually the case, but by the end, which I guess we'll give a bit of a spoiler warning for this, because I do want to talk about like this, your thoughts about the ending, because I think it's a really interesting choice the way that it ends. But yeah, that makes sense to me, because I was also trying to look up what censorship maybe was placed onto it. Like, is it public? Maybe what got cut? Like, was there much that was cut, or was it adjusted? Is that something that's out there?
I haven't really found anything about that, but the other rules that I have yet to mention is law enforcement must ultimately prevail. Drug trafficking is treated as a national security threat. I believe, like, at a certain point, they say, like, if you are caught with, like, 50 milligrams or something, death threat. It's like, whoa, that's crazy to me. Like, or maybe even, like, a smaller amount. I was baffled by that statistic. And then criminals must face clear punishment. So in Drug War, you can see that Johnnie To like turned down his usual like stylization and visualization for actual pure non-stop procedural realism. When I say they oftentimes say this like, oh, this movie is just a non-stop journey with like some of these action movies. This one actually is non-stop guys on their mission. They're constantly chasing. There is barely one moment of just peace except for one scene with Louis Cour when he arrives at the warehouse, and that's literally the first moment that he can take a breath for himself. Like that's the first time in the movie, and it's always like almost like halfway. So when I say this movie is almost non-stop, like I mean it. And that's what they you also bring up with the one-dimensional character thing, because they don't really broaden out further than that. It's really these cops and criminals that are on their mission, and they are, honestly, they feel expendable in the larger scheme of things.
And I think that moment that usually is like the humanizing part of a Johnnie To crime movie rings hollow here because it is deception, right? He is sharing something real in the midst of it, of sort of deceiving them and not being honest with them and being like, supervised and so I think this moment was, when it comes to, ranking these moments of humanizing criminals or like having these human moments in his movies, I think this is at the bottom because it feels the to me the most forced in, where you can see that's the identity of maybe another Johnnie To movie that doesn't fully work 100% under these guidelines of sort of the Chinese restrictions of on the mainland. But I think by the end of it ends up working out, even though I think the point of it feels like that the whole, like at least to me, that the whole thing was a waste of time and a waste of effort because it's the whole thing of like going up the ladder of infiltration. And we haven't talked about it yet, but I think the performance of Louis Coe is incredible.
Who plays the criminal, yeah.
Who plays the criminal. And then I think, to me, Sun Honglei, who has this role where he is the police guy, but also needs to play another criminal that he needs to imitate to go along and get certain things done. Who's very much like very laughy, like very different from him just being no reaction, like dead face. And then he's like, and it's such a funny transition that he'd like, and when he transitions back and forth from that, it's like, it's on the level of like, you remember when for Split people were praising like that performance a lot, where like this, obviously there's a couple more,
like James McAvoy,
with James McAvoy with a bunch of different performances that he was giving in that like M. Night Shyamalan movie, but the way that he goes back and forth in this like reminded me of that level of like precision of going back and forth too. And that's to me is like where like a lot of this movie is darkly comedic too. And it also nails the tension though. Like when we get that cocaine scene, for example, where like he has to prove that he's all in, and you can sort of feel like, I think what Johnnie To does so well in these moments, that maybe there's a ton of characters that that seem one-dimensional. You're thrust into a scene where it's overwhelming to like who's doing what and thinking why and what are their motivations. The individual tensions you can immediately read on people's faces, and that feels like a given, but it really isn't. If you're not familiar with like a certain actor and their sort of persona on screen, usually, then you can use that as like a backdrop to individual moments. But that's not going on here. It's just like these characters really sell, like especially Louis Coe, how like he's going from trying to hold on to some sort of agency to realizing he has nothing. He just like has to fully give in, and he plays that not one note of like, oh yeah, now he's doing it until he has a moment to sort of get out. Like he's not confident and just doing it. Like there's individual in the scenes, there's a progression that goes up and down in a way. It's like a very interesting performance overall.
And you have to remember, this is the brother in Fat Choice Period, who actually like gets hustled by the people, and this is such a different performance from the.
Oh yeah, it is. It's so different.
And a fun like sort of like fact, I guess, is that all the criminals in this movie are played by Hong Kong actors. So you could also interpret it that China sees Hong Kong as this like little ugly duckling, and like kind of wants to erase them, which they sort of do end up doing.
Kevin's flashbanging us.
Sorry,
you're like disco scene.
Yeah, and that's the thing I wanted. So this is actually the 10th time director Johnnie To and Louis Ko collaborated in a director-actor relation. So that I found they have worked so much with each other, and every time feels so different. And I guess we can talk about the ending now, because
spoilers.
The shootout, everything is fucking sublime. When they go to that school, the tension, the cars, and you said you were a bit disoriented by it, because I wasn't at all. I was full in.
A couple of times I think just structurally it wasn't clear who's shooting who from where we were jumping back and forth. It's a nitpick. It's not like I was completely lost, but it felt like the direction there could have been a tad bit clearer to me of how to follow it. But like you said, you had no struggle of like, you felt it was really clear. So maybe it was just a me thing. But yeah, that shootout, like the sort of, that's what I was saying, like realizing in the moment that something could happen here, and then like trying to use that, but then all of it being chaotic, and just like, towards the end, at the end of the shootout, like the kids walking out of the bus, and I was like, oh, you guys are still here. I forgot about you. I was like, oh my God, man. Jesus.
At that moment, he's really all fight and almost no flight, really, because he gets into some dirty thing. He puts the children in front of the window just to get them. He shoots the cop, and he knows it's not lethal, so he's just letting them bleed dry.
The choice is also that initially, up until this point, I think apart from him in the opening crashing into the restaurant, which we don't know why he did that, we don't see him be a criminal. We just see him as a reputation. He's like not doing a lot of like evil stuff until then, like, he's obviously a caught criminal, but this is sort of the breaking point where you're like sort of feeling like, oh, he's buying in, he's helping out, he's sort of, I guess, being the mole, but he's playing that role. He doesn't really have much of a choice, but he's doing it. And then fully breaking and really just seeing the desperation of him, just like at all costs he's getting out there, feels like such a swing of like him, oh, this is irredeemable what he's doing right now. He's like, he's fully fucking everything up and leaving. I feel like every named character that was in the police and criminals, like not the ones that we I guess meet throughout like earlier scenes, but everyone dies. Like literally, I feel like everyone's dead. It's crazy.
Which again, for some of these rules that the law enforcement must ultimately prevail, is also like that's a daring choice.
Yeah, the institution, I guess, with it ending on, like, it literally goes like he's injected with nerve agent to poison to like that sort of execution, and then just like I think straight to credits after, right?
Yeah. which feels so bleak, because they're like, he's actually still telling stuff that could be worth something to the police, and like he's full out revealing all his information, even on his like dead bed, like I guess that's what you call it, like the place where he's getting injected, and that some people also interpreted there the like the death of Hong Kong cinema, because like Louis Koo is actually still saying some interesting stuff, but clearly the institution, which like the police and China, just do not want to hear it at all, and get silenced anyway. So while this is indeed Johnnie To's like first mainland Chinese movie, and is under all these censorship regulations, he's still slipping shit on by, and that's also why I feel like he isn't making movies anymore, because he was making these choices, and in Drug War you can see he's a bit restricted and went for some other choices, but like in earlier films such as Election, he was going full on in there. And I think that's why he's not making movies anymore.
I think, ending, I don't know if he would have ended on that injection shot. It feels like it fits the movie overall. But it is definitely something that comes from the Johnny circulations. Because when we talked about Infernal Affairs, a movie also that came out in 2002, I believe, I guess 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
I just thought, same year, but no, that was the movie we just talked about before, My Left Eye Sees Ghosts. And there's the alternate ending where I guess this is a spoiler for that movie, which I guess we're in the spoiler section. So it like the elevator scene there, that has him be arrested, not shot, but like arrested as soon as he comes out instead of walking free. And then it immediately goes to credits as well, like very abruptly. It just like sort of, okay, maybe not the whole movie sets it up, but by the end you got caught, and that's the end. And that's sort of how they go about it, even though like you can do a bunch of stuff that wouldn't be under the code as long as by the end he's in police custody. And he sort of weaved it in here where it does make more sense, like him pleading to reveal like certain things still, to like plead for his life, but still ending his life there feels appropriate for what has like unfolded in the movie before. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it also feels like maybe I'm misremembering and like and placing it in different movies. But I also feel like there isn't really a lot of blood shown in this film. But maybe I'm actually off about that.
No, I think you can be right about that. There isn't a lot of blood shown indeed. I was by the way, I was just thinking, because you said you didn't know why he crashed into the restaurant. It's because he was at the factory when that exploded, and that's why he had all these things over him. And I guess he actually wanted to go to his boss to like sort of tell it, and just crashed on the way there, or like also to go to the truck guys. Which, by the way, the drug guys get a beating. Oh my god!
Yeah,
when they like, you dumb fuck.
We didn't talk about the deaf characters in this though, which I guess that there was the moment that is the humanizing thing. They have the whole little community of like people, and then when there's a shootout with them, where they are like the ones that actually make it out alive, and are the ones that then cause a second sort of fallout towards the end that are his downfall. It's like he was with a group, betrayed them, and earlier he was with another group and betrayed them, and that's ultimately what's biting him in the ass. It's like all of his sort of lies and opportunistic his opportunistic ways bite him in the ass by the end. Everyone else dies in the process too, but he also, like, it's not like he succeeds through these means.
And I love that these deaf or mute characters, I think they're deaf, but the fact that they're also intelligent, you could easily, like, some movies easily could play that for, like, oh, hey, look at how, like, stupid they sound. But, like, they're actual deaf characters who are very smart. Even when the cops enter their warehouse, it's like they're so smart with those different doors, having a separate exit, and like all the stuff in this movie is so thrilling. Even when the cocaine scene, like the switching thing, this movie came out like 2 years after Ghost Protocol. I guess Johnnie To took some inspiration from that as well, with the different diamonds bias thing there. And honestly, this is why Drug War is just, I bumped up my rating for it. It's like I can actually not find many flaws for this movie at all. And I am enjoying it. It's a non-stop journey until he can like have a moment of silence and grief, and then at the end, it's so crazy to me that even when the cop is like lying there almost to his death, he still hangs on to Louis Cour's character to like still have him in custody. It's bonkers. It's like a baffling choice, honestly, for me still to this day.
I can't lie. I rewatched that scene I think 3 times. Because I was trying to see if I can spot where he does it, because it happens off screen, and I was like, "Wait, he's caught? When did that happen?" And it happens so quickly, and it's immediately, because he's immediately dead after. He's not like playing dead. He's like it's his final act and he's dead right after. It's like his literal final motion in life is like to tie himself to him. It's so dramatic. Yeah.
Right. It's ultimately what makes drug war great.
Yeah. It's a pure determination to see it all through, and you can see it like in the way that he switches back and forth. It's like very much a performance to just like get to the ends, like the means justify. And it's late. I'm gonna blame it on that it's late.
We get what you mean. We get what you mean.
It's another one that I enjoyed. I think it wouldn't be in actually, you know, from what I've watched so far, it actually wouldn't be in my top half of Johnnie To. Actually, you know, yeah,
what?
Yeah, crazy.
What is your ranking by any chance?
Well,
do you know?
Yeah, I'll give you my Johnnie To ranking. One of the films we talked about today, My Left Eye Sees Ghosts, is definitely the one that's at the bottom there, like at a 2.5 rating. And then it becomes complicated. I've seen 7 films so far, so that's about number 7. I got My Left Eye Sees Ghosts. And then I do have Election, Drug War, and Election Again. All of these movies are sort of lumped together at like a very solid 4-star rating. Both the Election films, it has been a while since I've seen them. When I initially watched them, I think like maybe even just a year ago, but it feels longer since then. And bumping it up to my top 3, I really, really had a great time with Fat Choice Spirit. I'm this close to just playing Mahjong myself. It just looks like a very fun game. Just a very funny movie. And then I love Broadcast News. That like those 2 films are the closest to me. Like they're actually an 8.5.
Breaking News?
Wait, what did it say?
You said Broadcast.
Broadcast News. No, that's the other film I watched this week. Too many things in the news. But yeah, Breaking News is like, you know, 8.5 out of 10 to me. But at the top, and I think it's just from this project on, 7 movies in, as we dive even further into Johnnie To's filmography, it's just going to be about, can anything top Exiled? Because that was a 5-star on a first watch. It is, to me, from his filmography, in a league of its own so far. But has me intrigued that, like, at least the filmmaking is always there. You know, maybe I don't connect with some comedic bits. And, you know, it's crazy. I got a 5 out of 10, and then I have, like, 4 out of 8 out of 10s roughly, and then a 10 out of 10. Solid filmography so far from what I've seen.
So for me, I've watched like 19 of his movies so far.
Oh wow.
His lowest has been 3.5 for me personally, so you can see why he's like one of my favorites. So from what I have seen, or like what you have seen, and I will tell the ranking, is Exiled would be first. Then I would have Election. Again, just purely because of the like Election and Election 2 are so good. Then I'm not gonna say number 3. Sorry, sir. From what I've seen. Then the next up would be Breaking News. Then Election 2. Then Drug War. Fat Choice Spirit. Then My Left Eye Sees Ghost would be indeed on the bottom, but it's like spoilers, still like number 13 out of the 19 movies that I have seen of his. So yeah. Again, he's one of my favorite filmmakers. Actually, he's my favorite. I don't know why I keep saying like one of my favorite, because obviously there are so many, but it's very clear to me that like I'm just on this guy's wavelength, like for whatever he has done, and from what I have seen so far, he has yet to have a miss for me technically, but you know, what a filmmaker.
Well, I think you already have a film on the radar that we're going to talk about next. Maybe coming soon in its own separate video podcast form. Stay tuned.
So I want to take a little break. You know, we've talked about Johnnie To in a few weeks of succession. So I've said, let's take a break, like maybe a month and a half, because like in a month and a half, there's this little label, Blu-ray label called Radiance Films, like very, very good label. Like the movies they have put on like on discs are phenomenal, and their limited edition and booklets also have been very good. And I saw they have a little movie called Romancing in Thin Air coming out in April, which is a Johnnie To movie I have not yet seen. So it'd be the first that we are both talking about the Johnnie To movies on with both a first watch. It is, funnily enough, also a movie with Louis Coe and the main actress from My Left Eye Sees Ghost, so it feels like a fitting return to his filmography. Same main actors, obviously the same director, and it's a romance movie, so it's a little bit more in your realm. I know you love a good romance movie on that front.
Yeah, I see, for example, Connor has seen it and has given it a 5-star.
I also have a couple of people in my mutuals that have rated it 5 stars, 4.5, like very highly. I think the average rating on my friends is like 4.0. Yeah.
Yeah, but it only has been locked by 3,500 people on Letterboxd. It's really
wow.
I mean, Romancing in Thin Air, right? 2012. It has been out for a while, but yeah, like a new release. What you were saying on that company that like does the physical media,
Radiance
right?
Films.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll make sure. I don't know. I'll find it somewhere. Hopefully, it's out there because I can't see anywhere where it's streaming.
I think there's like a book by Stephen Dale on Johnnie To. I also think we should both read that book by then to really be familiar with like Hong Kong cinema and the way of Johnnie To's workings, because I think with that knowledge, like even more knowledge than we already have so far, I think that would really like spark the discussions of maybe why Johnnie To is the masterful filmmaker that he is.
Well, can you remind us, when does it come out in April again?
April 18th, I believe. I can quickly look it up.
Okay, but by the time this gets to you, it might be a bit later. So actually, we are really taking a break from some Johnnie To films.
April 20th.
We'll have, I guess, other movies that you'll recommend in the World Cinema Spotlight in between. I'm happy to return back to it. I feel like by the end of the year, we'll have gone through like a large chunk of his filmography.
I think I already know who our most watched director is gonna be at the end of the year in the Letterboxd statistic.
Yeah. Very likely. And also,
unless we watch all the Satoshi films.
I do have the beautiful box set right here for Satoshi.
It's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of the plan with this series as well, with World Cinema, that we can give someone, or for example, the beautiful Agnes Varda to Fellini at the top here, to, you know, go through filmographies. I really, really like doing that, to methodically also read up. Like I got over here as well. Where is it?
Bro's just flexing at this point.
Like, I haven't finished this. I started it a bunch of years ago. Something like about autobiography. Like, I'm about halfway through, but I've stopped like 2 years ago or something. So I maybe would have to restart. But it's really interesting. It's not really about his filmmaking. It's about like coming up until the way he starts filmmaking. But it's really interesting. And it's someone's filmography who I've kind of wanted to complete at some point anyways. I sent you that picture of the Madman films, like with their 4Ks of Akira Kurosawa. I was like, bro, I don't know, maybe I might cop that. I was like so close to buying it. Anyways, make sure you subscribe. That at some points we do get a bit of ad revenue here, so we can justify all of these expenses to bring you very in-depth analysis of all of these films. Obviously, we'll also still do them to a small audience regardless, just because we love movies. So definitely let us know what you thought, what you watched this week, and yeah, what you were passionate about. What was something special that you watched this week that you would like to share? Do that if you're still around by the time, about like 3 hours or something into this fucking podcast. It's crazy. It's become a problem, man. The length of this podcast has become a true problem in a way that you can see it in the darkness of Kevin's room. It just takes too long to record in one go. It's becoming like our Venice festival recaps in a way, just on a weekly basis, which is just too much. But
yeah,
next week we are going to talk about a film that you are super passionate about. You were saying to me, oh my god, I cannot wait for reminders of him. And I think I haven't gotten, like, I don't know if you're watching this movie, by the way. This might just be a sort of thing. I just kind of put it there, and you never said anything about it. So I got no clue if you're actually watching it.
I will actually watch it.
Okay.
It's quite funny because I actually wanted to compare Jai Courtney to Tyrek Winters who is like also popping up in all of these movies
He's
now. Yeah, and so I will watch Reminders of Him. I will. I'm not looking forward to it. I must admit, like this Colin Hoover.
It's okay. It's okay. Like I told you, like I think from the 2 Colin Hoover movies, from the books that I've both read, Verity and this, Reminders of Him is the better one. Now you might actually hate this and be like, oh, Verity is going to be dog shit. But like I told you, Verity is very much like The Housemaid and the plot, and this is more like trauma. Very much a trauma dump. It's very heavy on the trauma, and it tries like to work through
Fault in Our Stars. Like, what do you mean?
It's like about a woman who's trying to see her daughter again, that she had to give up after she was in a car crash and is blamed for the death, and has been sentenced for a couple of years in prison. And sort of the hatred that she has for herself and the people have blaming her for it, and sort of seeing like it's purely a movie about empathy. And also a bit of sexy time, but the sexy time is not that much in the movie. It's very like sort of
like that's the obligated young adult stuff.
Not really. But Colin Hoover definitely has like her sex scenes where she describes like, you know, people being entered and the way that they do sexy things, and they like sort of retcon some things in the movie to clean it up a bit. To also make the character a bit less complicated. But we'll talk about that more in detail, because I do the book analysis as well. I'm reading books, but also, more importantly, I'm rewatching Sinners, I'm rewatching Frankenstein, I'm rewatching One Battle After Another, a bunch of films, not just because, Oscars are around the corner and we do care about Oscars, could not care less, but because we are doing our final 2025 awards where we're talking about the best performances of the year. Oh my god, someone doesn't like opera or must like Marty Supreme less than shut the fuck up. We'll talk about the actual movies and the actual performances, and have our best moments of the year. We'll sort of make sure we have a bunch of fun categories to praise the movies one final time. I think the one change that we're making is in our initial top 25 or top 20, I don't even know. Was it 25 that we did?
Top,
I think
25 or 25, yeah.
We did a bunch of movies that were technically like 2026 releases that only released at festivals. We are, for the sake of maybe mixing it up a bit, gonna leave those movies out now that we already knew that they wouldn't be 2025 releases, but it was still fun to put them on this list. But we're going to make the cutoff a bit more clear. And then lastly, for World Cinema, which might be by the next week something that we do separate. We'll see. There might be a separation from these podcasts because we're going to talk about a separation.
Look at you doing these segues now.
Look at me.
I see what you're doing.
It's almost fucking midnight soon, and I'm still coming up with these segues. I know.
Maybe you perform better at night.
I'm not going to make that joke. It's a film by Asghar Farhadi that was, did it win the international Oscar that year? I think it did, right? Or it was at least.
It must have.
It definitely was nominated. It's a movie that has been on my watch list countless times, but I never just kind of made the time for it to fully get into it. If you look onto the Letterboxd top 500, it's at spot number 91. It has an average 4.4 rating on Letterboxd, and it obviously is a movie that is co-produced by France but takes place in Iran, and so that's unfortunately very timely with the war going on there. But I feel like a movie about that, not that it would be our discussion in very much of like the current times, but obviously looking at the movie, it's going to be very interesting. I'm actually very excited to finally give this a watch.
We have praised Iranian cinema over the years. So I'm actually really intrigued to go back to older Iranian films of the past, because I haven't seen many, I'll admit it. So I'm looking forward to this one. Mm-hmm. And it did win the best foreign language film of the year that year. And it also got one writing original screenplay nomination as well. Right,
yeah. And I mean, it's only gotten praise. And I don't know if it's like the sort of Jafar Panahi sort of adoration that, certain filmmakers have from Iran that are just like very beloved. And for me, it was like, oh, that's another film. I didn't say that. I think It Was Just an Accident is one that I do need to rewatch for next week as well. It's one film that still currently on my Letterboxd, it has a 3 out of 5, and I do need to rewatch it
Maybe it'll have a secret Asian effect, right?
Exactly. I think that's sort of not unlikely. Anyways, that wraps it up for this sort of short recording. It's basically the runtime of Quaden. Probably longer actually than Quaden.
It's actually longer.
Make sure you close your windows and there's no blizzard that comes in with the snow lady that wants to give you 2 children and then is mad at you when you basically say, oh, you remind me of someone else I met a couple of years ago. You die. That's what you do by the end of this podcast if you made it all the way to this. But yeah, anything else you want to say, Kev, before we hop into the abyss? Because before you leap back into the darkness?
By the way, I just love how I now see Baby Grogu, but it's like so
like halfway through. I made that lame joke before that like he's succumbed to the dark side.
Yeah, he has.
Anyways,
and you know what he's gonna do? He's going to cut me up.
Cut you up with a lightsaber. Cut you up. Yeah. Why am I still talking? Hello, I said cut the video. Why are you still here? Podcast is that? Well, now I got to run over someone with my car to fully give you the Matthew Broderick.